Mexico demand that Americans stop immigrating to their country and stop stealing their homes. Most people coming from other countries, mostly foreigners, who want to impose their culture, their prices, and displace Mexicans, the native people of these lands. Protesters in Mexico smashed windows and screamed at tourists as part of an anti-gentrification march. I'm here because gentrification is just one more step towards colonization, dispossession, exploitation of our resources. Demonstrators spoke out against wealthy individual nomads driving up prices, particularly Mexicans who stay in Mexico for 180 days without a visa, or Americans that stay in Mexico. So now they don't like illegal immigrants? Yeah, based. See? Yeah, it sucks, right? Kill a gringo. Uh-oh. Even I know what that means. I went to a 70% Mexican high school, okay? I get it. I totally get it. Because these people come into your city, they have way more money than you do, they increase the prices of everything, then they run you out of the fucking city. Having national pride and not wanting foreigners to come into your country, change its culture, its customs, and its traditions, that's normal. And I feel like the amount of guilt that people try to put on Western countries for exercising these same freedoms that Hispanic countries here are exercising, I think is ridiculous. Lots of white people? Bro, there are plenty of people that are Hispanic that have skin as white as mine. So aren't you black? Not, I don't think so. I know one way I could test it. Should I test it?
Now we're playing with the big stuff. The N-word.
Xbox is, I don't even know what the hell's going on with Xbox. But it's not good, I'll tell you that. It's not good at all. Xbox is imploding. Let's watch it.
The, as of now, not so jolly green giant Microsoft Xbox just pink slipped about 9,000 people July 2nd, 2025. They axed the long-teased Perfect Dark reboot, shuttered the initiative, and quietly nudged Rare's decade-in-the-making Everwild into an unmarked grave they've been digging for
Looks like garbage. That's what I think. Looks like shit.
Knows how long. It is, unfortunately, the bigger and better sequel to last year's Carnage, when Xbox decided that Hi-Fi Rush, their massive hit, was warranting of closing the studio, and Redfall was red.
Why does everybody think that Hi-Fi Rush was this massive hit? Do you really think that they would have shut down the studio if they had made money on the game? It sold well? How do you know that? Nobody has access to the booking that they have. Nobody knows that.
Fall. There was nothing that really could have been done about forcing a studio that makes immersive sims to make a stupid live service heap of vampire nonsense. Oh,
this is again, I think, a total excuse. It doesn't matter what video game you make. If you can't figure out how to make characters not clip through the floor, you're a bad game dev. Period. Redfall was, I think you'd have a good argument if the game didn't have a lot of direction, but it played well. But this game didn't even play well. The game was garbage. The studio deserved to be shut down because they made trash. Everything about this game was bad. The gameplay was bad. The graphics were bad. The game was full of bugs. Why would that happen? And I'll take, sorry, Dishonored is goated. You don't understand the way that these studios run. These studios, in a lot of cases, are the ship of Theseus. The only thing that is the same with these studios, whenever you're comparing them to how they used to be or the development that they used to have, is the name of the studio. That's it. The people are different. The management are different. The creative is different. The process is different. Everything is different. You cannot base the quality of a studio off of a game that came out 10 years ago. It's just not how it works. Look at Bungie. Yeah, look at Blizzard. How many Ship of Theseus developers do we have now? We're probably going to have that with Naughty Dog with Intergalactic too.
Not forcing them to do that and then complaining when it doesn't work. I mean, that was kind of a built-in ZeniMax problem, but still, nothing says we believe in the power of our studios like closing them, while Phil Spencer
They should close them. They made garbage. That's the way it works. If you produce a product and the product doesn't sell and you lose millions of dollars, you get fired.
He's not retiring anytime soon. The new Xbox strategy looks a lot like if you can't beat them, publish on their platform. Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, they're all sailing onto Sony's turf, and Hellblade 2 is hot on their heels. Meanwhile, Game Pass is stalled at 35 million subscribers. Not a number to shake a stick at, but it hasn't been growing, and it's needed to grow. So Microsoft decided...
Who decided that it needed to grow? Did Microsoft say that? What are they thinking internally? The difference between PlayStation and Xbox is that PlayStation exists inside of a relatively small ecosystem, whereas Xbox exists inside of an ecosystem that compromises 90% of the PCs used worldwide with Windows. It's kind of like people wonder, oh, why is it that Amazon doesn't care about Twitch losing money? It's because Twitch acts as a loss leader, and it introduces and it's integrated into the Amazon ecosystem in the same way that Xbox is integrated into the Microsoft ecosystem. So if you take individual loss leaders or individual products and you judge them by themselves, they might not make a lot of sense financially. But when you evaluate them inside of the scope of the larger system that they're a part of, they actually play an integral role.
You know what? Let's start partnering with people to make third-party handhelds. Oh, and they won't play the entire Xbox catalog, just PC games that you don't need Xbox for. Yeah, a lot of head-scratching going on. This is a long intro, but in order to set it up, there's a lot to say. It feels like we've been asking this question a lot, but, well, hi, folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, we are, again... perhaps more fervently and more seriously asking the question, what the hell is going on with Xbox?
I think Xbox, this is what, in my opinion, the problem is. I think Xbox doesn't hold their developers to a high enough standard. How the fuck do you have, like, what is the main game that Xbox is associated with? What is the game that put Xbox on the map? Halo. Everybody knows it. How the fuck have you not fired every single person from 343 and replaced them with literally anyone else? Halo 4 was a disappointment, Halo 5 was a disappointment, and Halo Infinite is currently a failure. How do you have 3 strikes and the only thing you do is rename the studio? They should have disbanded 343 after Halo 5. You had 2 chances, you failed. Reboot the entire thing, yeah. And I think that's the big problem that Xbox has, is that Xbox is spread probably too thin, and they're not focusing on a handful of really, really strong, good titles, which is what I think PlayStation does very well. They focus on narrowing down and doing a few very good single-player experience titles like Death Stranding 2, like God of War, like Final Fantasy 16 when it originally came out. And that is what they do. They're narrow in focus, and because of that, they're able to be effective.
So the last year hasn't been kind to the Xbox brand with the whole Xbox Everywhere initiative and the many concerning rumors that we've been...
This is short-sighted. Xbox Everywhere will be the norm. Xbox is setting themselves up to be a major player in cloud gaming, and people that don't see that, I don't think they realize what the future is going to be. Xbox and Microsoft, and more importantly, Microsoft is setting themselves up to be a cloud gaming competitor. whereas PlayStation is still selling consoles at a loss. Did you guys know that a lot of consoles are sold at a loss in order to, you know, hopefully sell video games that are sold at a higher margin? So why would Xbox fixate on selling a product and a piece of technology that is effectively something they're losing money on anyway? It's not even a good, like, if you go down to the fundamental level, why would Xbox want to keep making, why would they want to keep making Xbox consoles if the consoles lose money and they could just sell the same product on a different place? It doesn't make any sense.
Coming out of Microsoft regarding the future of Xbox hardware, but it seemed like things were kind of on the upswing after Xbox strong showing at Summer Game Fest. That positivity has all but evaporated with the devastating news from yesterday I mentioned at the top. You know, over 9,000, yes, over 9,000 people employed.
What,
9,000? Have been laid off. And Microsoft, could you have at least not done the meme? I don't want to laugh about a bunch of people losing their jobs, but multiple studios have been closed for good. Some highly anticipated.
They're not highly anticipated. The shit sucked. It's slop. It's garbage. You think Phil Spencer's retarded? He's not retarded. This game sucks.
Games have been canceled. Cuts and layoffs are hitting everywhere, even successful areas like Turn 10, and even studios working on frickin' Call of Duty.
Good. Call of Duty has a quality problem for years. It's even established that every third Call of Duty is like bad because they keep pushing them out at this super high ratio and the quality of the games goes down. Like I heard the new Black Ops is pretty good. Before that, I feel like the last one that was really important was Warzone. Yeah, sure, it's only every third one. Yeah, because there are 3 studios that make Call of Duty, right? It's mid. I'm telling you, bro, like they've got to do that 9/11 plot. They have to do it. I don't know why they haven't done it.
Here's that nothing and no one is safe in this major round of firings. Keep in mind,
that would bring
we're talking
it back.
about the 4th major wave of firing in the last 2 years. Ever since acquiring Activision Blizzard, it has just been a bloodbath for all involved. This latest thing is a step beyond, though. It's not just support staff or QA or redundant management or whatever excuse they came up with for the last ones. This time, Xbox is coming for your job, whether you're in a studio trapped in development hell or in one of their best studios with hits coming out of it. In late June, we actually heard rumblings about potential mass culling of jobs here. And
this is not the mass culling. This is the appetizer.
On the 2nd of July, the hammer came down. It wasn't just Xbox, it was all of Microsoft. It was about 4% of the entire Microsoft workforce, which is, to be clear, insane. The initiative the studio formed to work on the Perfect Dark reboot was entirely...
How the fuck do 30 people make Expedition 33, but 9,000 people get let go, and the games are still garbage? I'll tell you how. It's because their jobs are useless and they make garbage. Get the losers out. Remove the losers. Remove the bloat. Remove the middle management. Remove the HR. Bring in passion, talent, and drive. And you can do the same thing with 10 people that it would take 100 Karens to fail at.
Shut down. The Perfect Dark reboot has been canceled.
Of course it was. Everybody thought this bitch looked ugly as fuck. Everybody thought this was awful. There's a huge controversy about this. When was the last time they made a game and there was an ugly female character and the game did well? Oh, that's right. Probably fucking never. Or there's some game in the PlayStation 3 that it happened in. That's it. Never. It doesn't work that way. Who the fuck do you think plays games where you run around and shoot people? Men. Do you think men want to play some character that looks like their mom? No. They want to play a girl that looks like Eve from Stellar Blade. It's that simple. Nobody asked for this. Nobody wants this. Nobody needs this, and it won't sell. That's
Rare's
it.
Everwild as well. Canceled.
I'm sorry.
According to insider sources, the cancellation of Everwild is actually leading the game's director, Greg Mayles, a 35-year veteran of Rare, who worked on games as far back as Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Viva Pinata, bolting. Just like, you know, if you're doing this, I'm out. I'm out, guys. I mean, this is just one person among thousands, but I wanted to highlight him because he is an elder statesman of the games industry, and Mayles' exit from Rare is one of the last nails in the coffin for classic Rare. Almost all of the old guard from that studio are just gone, and it's sad to see him go.
Like what I said.
It's a tough time to be a Rare fan right now, honestly, but in all seriousness, it's not just...
People have to stop being fans of development studios that made a good game 27 years ago. That's not the same studio. Those aren't the same people. Just because there's a couple of people that are there that are the same, I bet 90% of that studio staff is different. It's so
Rare.
delusional.
It's everything Xbox. Even King, the mobile game developer and massive moneymaker for Xbox, is getting like 10% of its studio cut. Raven Software and Sledgehammer are getting hit with some layoffs. A new IP that was going to be a new MMO from the Elder Scrolls Online guys canceled, and that's far.
Did we see it? No. I wonder why.
From the only thing getting canned at Bethesda. Reportedly, there are multiple unannounced projects that have been canceled. Even John Romero, the influential co-creator of Doom, was not spared Xbox's, well, I guess you could say wrath, but I don't think this is wrath. As somebody who loves video games, these job losses are brutal, and hearing about all these potentially amazing games getting canceled before
they're not brutal, they're necessary. In order to have a tree grow in the way that you want it to, it needs to have branches pruned. This is necessary. I think that a lot of people, like, it's very popular to say what I think that this video is saying, and it's very unpopular to say what I'm saying. But if you look at the results and the outcomes, the people that follow my line of thinking are the ones that create the best positive outcomes.
It's super disheartening. I'm not really a console wars person. I like me some PlayStation. I like me some Nintendo Switch, and I like me some Xbox. But as such, I am an Xbox fan, and it's hard not to feel like the sky's falling after all this news. So what does Phil Spencer, the head of Microsoft Gaming, do? Why put out a tone-deaf internal message that sounds more like a press release for shareholders than anything meant to address concerns or help with what is, I mean, an absolutely bottom-of-the-barrel morale situation?
It's great to see you lost weight, but the other reason, too, also is, here's probably the main reason why. It's because it was for shareholders. They can't share internal emails because they always get leaked. So the only things that they share with employees privately are things that they expect to go public. That's the reason why. I feel like a lot of the people that made decisions to make all this vote won't get affected by this. I think that you're right, and you need to see more executive leadership get sacked as well. That's true.
No doubt. This entire statement is so freaking pathetic. It is pure corpo garbage.
It's partially Phil's fault for not being on hands-on with the devs. I think you bring up a really great point, because at the end of the day, Phil is the head of Xbox, and another woman, Sarah, is also the head of Xbox. When they have a game that comes out, it is ultimately their responsibility that that game is good. And so I think that you bring up a really good point, and I think that they are spread way too thin. They need to narrow down, in my opinion. They need to make a new Conker's Bad Fur Day. They need to make a good Halo. They need to make sure Gears of War E-Day is good. And let me think. There's probably 2 other games that they really need to narrow down and make. And it's mainly Halo and Gears. Those are the big ones. And Fable. Yes, exactly. Fable's the other one. Fable and Elder Scrolls 6. If they could, like, just take everything else and get rid of it. Deliver on those 5 products, and Xbox is the pinnacle. That's it.
Inexplicably
That's the only thing that
acknowledges all the
matters.
job losses, while at the same time saying, I recognize that these changes come at a time when we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before.
Yeah.
Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap has never looked stronger. What the fuck is wrong with you, Phil? I'm sorry to curse, but what is that? What is that?
Well, he's saying that for shareholders because he knows that they're going to leak the message. And if he says that we're losing players, it's going to affect the shareholder value. And that's the reason why. So you shouldn't criticize Phil for making statements like this that are hollow. You should look at why they're happening. And the reason why they're happening is because people leak content and they say that they expose things that are meant to be private. And so because of that, he can't communicate with them on an honest level because they're just going to leak it. That's the reason why. It's PR speech? Yeah, exactly.
Tell you what it is. He's trying to calm investors while addressing the issue for remaining staff. And it just comes off as fake as shit. We've all been willing to give Phil a shot the last few years because things have been tough. I'm not going to pretend that things are not tough. It's getting harder and harder for anybody out there in them streets. But it's
in my opinion, the graphics on this, I don't think this is good enough. I think this is okay. But this isn't that much better than Halo 3. And also, this is still the Mjolnir armor. So it should be way more tattered up. It should be way more, like, it looks plastic. It does. This is your flagship franchise. If Halo is not your most popular product, you're fucking up. Gameplay is over graphics? No, but the graphics should still be really good. You don't remember the way it used to be. Halo 1's graphics were like the equivalent of Black Myth Wukong. Beyond that, even. Halo 1, Final Fantasy X, Super Mario 64, Super Mario RPG. I can think of The Witcher 3, Monster Hunter World. Like, these are games that were so definitive in terms of graphics and style that they moved the entire industry forward. And in its own unique way, Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker was also like that, but that was inspired by Beautiful Joe, which came before that too. But ultimately, this should be a lot better.
But it's also getting harder and harder to see his run as the leader of Xbox as a freaking disaster. Going from the top of the industry to what is essentially a third-party publisher in just over a decade is something basically only Sega can truly identify with. Yeah. Like the Genesis was just, I mean, it did what
Sonic
Nintendo
CD.
don't. And the Xbox 360, yeah, it had some pretty big problems to overcome, but they did right by consumers, and that built the brand in a massive way. It's arguable that the Nintendo Wii won in terms of pure sales, but culturally speaking,
the Wii is the most transcendent console of all time.
The Xbox was the winner, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of homegrown Xbox franchises dead in the water, floundering badly. The Division is entirely propped up by their third-party purchases of Bethesda and Activision. And even then, it seems like, at least right now, the purchase of these massive studios is hurting them more than it's helping Xbox. Like, look at how many cuts are being targeted at Bethesda and Activision. It's not just Microsoft stuff here. It's across the board gaming division stuff. With how things are going at Microsoft, along with all the reports we're hearing at EA and jobs getting cut there.
They've canceled the Black Panther game. Everybody talks about why this is so horrible that they canceled these games, but we haven't even seen the games. We didn't even see the games. How do we know that this was a bad decision?
It's hard not to feel like the bottom is falling out.
Because the people that made Black Panther, one of the women that was running the game, said that she didn't want to work with white people because they made her, like, she couldn't communicate or talk to white people in the right way. You really think that people like that are going to be able to create a good product? Probably not. They're retarded.
the U.S. games industry. If this really is the beginning of the end of the U.S. dominating video games, it's at least partially a self-inflicted wound fueled by reckless consolidation and tech industry greed, buying up everything they can without actually understanding why people buy video games. It's honestly completely infuriating, but it's the narrative that's being built. It's not just the U.S. games industry, honestly. There's reports that video game spending is just down across the board.
I think the reason why video game spending is going down is because there's so many free games that are available that people play regularly, things like Fortnite, for example. And so as you've seen that transition happen, and also another big reason is because 18 to 24-year-olds have less disposable income. So like if you're comparing this to COVID, like what are you comparing it to, 2021? It's very well documented that during recessionary periods that luxury purchases actually go up. It's just a lot of this is just not, it's not contextualized in a way that I think is accurate. New games are microtransaction trash. Yeah, market's oversaturated. They play gacha games now. Well, I mean, I think that would be included, right?
COVID, all these companies bet on infinite growth. But hey, remember how we were all stuck indoors and the best thing to do with that situation is play video games? And now we aren't all stuck indoors anymore? Oh, there's a shock. Were these people thinking that the disease was going to keep us inside forever? Like, that wasn't the new normal. It was an aberration in human history. That's not how human history works. I know people like 28 years later, but that wouldn't happen, man.
I haven't seen
not just
it yet.
the whole
I heard it was
zombie aspect of it, but like, they die out. The zombies starve.
Yeah.
They can't think. They just do rage shit. And eventually you run out of energy. That's how diseases work. They become less as they spread antibody. We don't need to get into it. I just can't fathom the reaction from all these companies that because we're in a pandemic and we're locked down and everybody's playing video games, that's how it's always going to be. I just can't fathom.
He's right, but I think that his perspective is also short-sighted. Because if you look at a lot of the company's growth patterns from before and after COVID, many companies retained 40 to 60% of their COVID numbers. So I'll give you a couple of examples just to kind of prove this. We're going to look at Twitch Tracker, right? And this just shows statistics for Twitch. You can see that as COVID was a massive multiplier on the popularity of Twitch, after COVID ended, they maintained a lot of that popularity afterwards. You can look at, let me think of another, are there more examples? Steam users. So let's take a look at that over here and we'll see if there's a graph also. And you can see right here, you can see obviously COVID was a massive amount of people coming into the demographic, but it continued to maintain. So this entire idea that the COVID levels of success were not at least partially maintained is untrue. Now, obviously, it didn't just continue the line going up straight up. Absolutely not. But the reality is that with a lot of these companies, they did retain a tremendous amount of the people that they brought into their ecosystem. The SteamDB has a better graph. Let me see if I can pull that up and find it real quick. And charts, maybe? Can I just find it through charts? Concurrent Steam users. Okay, let me see if I can show this right here. So concurrent Steam users over the last 8 years. And you can see right here, this clearly, yeah, this is a great graph. After the 9 years, so this is COVID-19, right? And you can see that Steam is even going up after that. So Netflix as well. Yeah, you can look at Netflix as well also. So, but maintaining that growth is no longer growth. Yeah, exactly, right?
That. There's no set of information that implies that. And yet, oof, geez. And the younger generation is literally getting priced out of their own hobby. Games that casual audiences might actually want, like Perfect Dark, they're not getting made, and Halo is not out of the woods. Who even knows what's going on with 343 right now?
Well, the fact that 343 aren't in the unemployment line right now is an insult to Halo players. It's a complete insult. Like, they've failed 3 games so far. 3 games they've released with the largest IP in Xbox history, and they failed. Like, why are they not at McDonald's? They should be at McDonald's. Did anybody want or ask for Perfect Dark? I think that if they remade Perfect Dark, Jet Force Gemini, Conker's Bad Fur Day, or like one of these like older video games, like what was it, the Odd Odyssey or whatever, like any of those, if they remade those, people would lose their fucking minds. They would be so happy. Yeah, Lost Odyssey, exactly. Oddworld, yeah, there you go, Oddworld. And it's not about that. It's not about the IP. It's about the quality of the games.
Now, I know this is a real downer, but it's pretty hard not to be frustrated with this news. If there's something I can say to counteract the negativity, it's that Xbox isn't dead. All the news that's been dropped the last few days is
It's very obvious that Xbox has completely recalibrated their business model.
But
it's
that
obvious.
doesn't mean it's over. It means there's some major reshuffling going on. They do still have more than 40 games in development. There's at least one more Xbox.
Yeah, let's see. This game's going to do well. This one will do well. This one will do well. This one will do well. This one might do well. This one, I don't... this one will do well. It's just a reload. This one will do well. Resonance, I heard this game was pretty good. High on Life, I don't know about this. Clockwork Revolution, insanely fun. Like, this trailer was ridiculous. This one's probably gonna suck. Let's see here. Persona 4 will probably do well. Let's see here. Fallout 76, I don't know. Sea of Thieves continually does well, and that's about it. The other one's probably not so much. Maybe Super Meat Boy will be kind of popular, but I don't really think so.
Console in the future, probably. At least that's what we're hearing. No. Game Pass isn't going to go away. 35 million subscribers is a lot. It's maybe not the license to print money Xbox and Microsoft hoped it was, but 35 million subscribers is a success. They should hold on to that, because that's, if I'm not mistaken, the current game subscription service that is successful. Like, if there's a Netflix equivalent, it's Game Pass. So the news isn't all bad. It's important to keep in mind that even with all these internal issues at Microsoft, they're de facto still the #1 games publisher in the world. That is because they own both Bethesda and Activision, but still Xbox isn't going anywhere. And yeah, it's easy to lay the blame on Phil Spencer, and certainly he does deserve plenty. Sarah Bond.
He's responsible, and she's responsible too. I don't think it's exclusively their fault. But I think them spreading themselves too thin and working on all of these extra projects while not maintaining and curating the prime Xbox IPs, Fable, Halo, and Gears, huge mistake.
The president of Xbox and Max Booty, the president of Game Content Studios, they deserve some blame here as well. But I do want to say this. At the end of the day, they are also just cogs in the Microsoft machine. Phil still has to answer to Satya Nadella, the CEO and chairman of Microsoft. And you better believe that it was probably him and not Phil that was pushing for the reduction in staff. Phil's just...
And he's right to do that. He's right. And it will be shown that he's right in the coming years. A lot of these studios will be making the same decisions. These guys aren't stupid. He's not stupid. Like, they know exactly what they're doing.
Caping for it. Unfortunately, though, at the end of the day, Xbox is a small portion of Microsoft's frankly massive empire. The successes and failures of that division are just a drop in the bucket compared to the revenue that the other divisions bring in, which is an important and humbling reminder of just how seriously the company takes the division, which appears to be not that much. In the past few years...
It's an added media brand that sells other products and keeps people in entertainment inside of the Microsoft ecosystem, but it's not its own product by itself. And I think that if Xbox had to exist without the funding and subsidy from Microsoft, it would probably go out of business. But Xbox can provide a value that's disproportionate to the value that it provides to itself, to Microsoft as a whole, that creates its value in the aggregate. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand with why, for example, Amazon doesn't sell Twitch and why Microsoft doesn't sell Xbox. It's because these things are they're existing inside of a larger ecosystem that feeds into each other. Xbox Cloud Gaming also runs on Microsoft servers. Yeah, and Microsoft Azure is, I think, 30% of Microsoft's market share, or Microsoft's value and income. It's around, I think it's 25 to 35%.
Under Nadella, it's felt like the sword of Damocles
40?
was just hanging over Xbox, waiting to fall. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. It's all pure speculation, but it literally just could be that rather than a string of bad decisions. I don't know that I would say it's that, but Phil...
I think that they have made a string of bad decisions also. They've released a number of really bad games. That's true. I think that they're making really good structural decisions, but their creative decisions are horrible.
Could have been trying to stave the inevitable off for the past few years, just trying to keep the gaming division alive when the vultures at Microsoft's other divisions are circling. I want to note that this is possible and probably some of the explanation at bare minimum. But it's also not to say that the Xbox team hasn't made serious blunders. The way they've handled their internal studios like 343 The Coalition and the now closed The Initiative has been a disgrace. Xbox was handed some of the greatest IPs ever, like Halo, Gears of War, and yes, Perfect Dark. There was major potential there, and they squandered it with poor management.
Perfect Dark did not have major potential. It didn't have the same type of name recognition. It was a game that was popular on, like, what, Nintendo 64 or GameCube or something? Like, the game, again, like, it's good that you're making a new version of this, but you're effectively making a new game.
To praise Microsoft's hands-off approach to game development in the past, and it's led to some amazing stuff.
Like,
especially
look at that gameplay. Does this really make you want to spend $70?
Microsoft's hands-off approach to game development in the past, and it's led to some amazing stuff, especially from Obsidian, who are proving to be the MVPs of the entire division lately.
Why would you say that? Avowed was a horrible Avowed was a horrible game. It got blown the fuck out by Oblivion that came out 17 years prior. And also, if it wasn't so bad, then why did they lose staff and the person that led the company for Avowed, why did the person leave? It was a massive failure. Like, by all metrics and all ways that you can look at it, it was a tremendous and colossal failure.
Seriously, you know who I haven't had to mention up till this point in the video? Obsidian. That is of note, to say the least. But in the case of other studios management, like of Halo and Gears specifically, maybe a little more hands-on would have been helpful if they had. Maybe
True.
The Initiative
That's a great point.
Floundered for nearly 10 years with basically nothing to show for it with Perfect Dark. Like, I'm sorry.
And this gameplay is garbage. Hunters shouldn't be moving around like this. They should be big lumbering giants, not outrunning Master Chief. This is ridiculous. This is awful. It totally, like, I'm sorry, but, like, I played Halo 1, played Halo 2, Halo 3. This is not the way it should work.
Floundered for nearly 10 years with basically nothing to show for it with Perfect Dark. Like,
Garbage.
I'm sorry, but it's not that hard to make a Perfect Dark game. You could literally just reboot it and do the first game's plot with some changes, and I think everybody would be pretty psyched as long as it turned out well. Like, it doesn't even really have to be original as long as it does what it's supposed to do and adds enough that it's not just the same game again. Like, the Initiative was formed in 2016. They've had basically nothing but some vertical slices, according to reports. Compare Microsoft's handling of their studios to someone like Nintendo, who's very hands-on. Some developers buckle under the pressure. Yeah, I've seen reports.
Nintendo has also even said that recently, this is a statement they made in the past couple of days, is that they're even rethinking the way that they develop video games, and they're going to be changing the way that they're developing to go towards shorter development cycles in order to save money, in order to meet customer demands. Because the pricing, I think really probably the pricing of Mario Kart was a wake-up call for them. We need Prime 4 now? Yeah, for sure. Samus looks stupid. I can see why people say that, but yeah, it's a little bit out of proportion. That just means more slop? No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, like, that's not true at all.
Metro Studios really struggled with Nintendo working on Metroid Prime, but at the end of the day, it's an all-time great game. With Xbox, it's 10 years of nothing followed by cancellation. And that's always been a problem with Xbox to a certain degree, but this slow, gradual transition from major hardware competitor to third-party software developer, publisher, whatever, it's sad to see. Maybe in Microsoft's eyes, this is a more profitable direction to take things, but as a gamer, it feels like the mighty have fallen. It feels like the...
I totally disagree. I disagree a lot with this video. I think this video brings up good points, but I don't agree with his evaluation of a lot of these. I agree with his assessment, but I don't agree with his conclusions. I think the reality is that why would Xbox continue to make consoles in a market that they're already cannibalizing their own sales in? Xbox is in a very unique circumstance that when an Xbox player buys a console and they choose not to play a game on PC, they're effectively cannibalizing a sale. Because now this is somebody that you've already sold them Windows. You've already decided that. Now you're selling them the same thing again, and it's being sold at a loss. It's just not a commercially good decision in any way. They're a giant corporation now. They only care about profits. What do you think? The smaller companies don't? They all care about profits.
Industry itself, the hobby, not necessarily Xbox, but this is a huge pillar of the gaming industry that is crumbling. I told you I am not a console wars person. Seeing this happen to a big company that was this successful, which technically has a much bigger company behind it that up until this point has just been willing to fund it to no end. I mean, if you don't see something in those tea leaves, I don't know if you're looking. That doesn't look good. Like, I will say it could be an economic response, the post-COVID dip, and it may eventually even out. Maybe all this doom and gloom around Xbox is unwarranted.
It is.
Maybe they had to make these moves, and this is stuff that will end up working out in the future. I don't know. But as an old-time game...
Sony's going to do the same thing, by the way. Sony's going to do the same thing that Xbox is doing now, with shutting down studios, probably. Nintendo, you're probably not going to hear about it because, like, the way that Nintendo does press and everything is very different. But Sony, you'll probably see the same thing happen.
Game Bird, someone who's watched this happen to Sega and now is watching it again with Xbox, but now in a completely different economic climate. Seeing how things have been going the last few years just really sucks. I don't really care about Microsoft's bottom line. I care about video games. In the case of this situation, I care about Xbox games and positive feelings I've had about the original console and all the amazing games back on the 360. But more and more, the division feels less like that Xbox and more just Bethesda and Activision because they're really doing the lion's share of the game publishing now. Almost all the old stalwarts at Xbox, the games that put the console on the map, they're seemingly dying. I hope that's not the case. I hope Halo comes back bigger and better than ever, but right now, that possibility feels...
Why would Halo come back and be better if they're being made by the same company that's made 3 bad Halo games? I also think that Microsoft does a very bad job managing their own IPs. Like, whenever I heard that there was going to be a secret level crossover episode with the Doomslayer and Master Chief, and for some reason they didn't do that, it gave me the insight to understand that I don't think that they understand, like, that type of fan service. Like, everybody thinks of fan service as, like, you know, your favorite anime girl in a bikini, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. And I think this type of fan service is something that they should be doing.
Very distant. So to answer the question, what the hell is going on in Xbox? What the hell is up with Xbox? What the hell is this? Well, a lot of people are getting fired and some highly anticipated games are getting canceled. Unfortunately, the vaporware nature of both Perfect Dark and Everwild means that the cancellations are probably justified.
No, this doesn't appeal to anybody. Nobody wants this. This is going to be a game. It's going to release on Steam. It's going to have 1,200 players. Like, really, like, I'm just being honest. Sorry, somebody's got to say it.
These were probably money holes.
It's canceled?
That doesn't make it not
That's
Sting,
right.
though. What really sucks is the loss of all these other unnamed games from Bethesda, including a new IP from ZeniMax. It all just looks really bad for Xbox on the whole, but this was the inevitable result of their purchase of Bethesda and Activision. Like, that's how industry stuff works. Jobs are gonna get lost. But I don't know if anybody really predicted how bad this was going to get. The cutting around...
This is only the beginning. It's going to get so much worse.
50% of the staff at Turn 10, the guys behind Forza, is especially brutal, as are the cuts at Call of Duty developers like Raven and Sledgehammer. I mean, Call of Duty is basically a license to print money now. Like, that's not changing either. It doesn't have any evidence of changing. So if you think anyone would be protected, it would be them. It's a bloodbath across the board, and things might sound really bad. Xbox, unfortunately, whether they deserve to or not, is going to weather the storm. What Xbox is going to be after the storm, I have no idea. But Microsoft is a monolith. They're basically untouchable in the tech space. And at least for now, it seems like there's interest in keeping the gaming division alive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, you know, a percentage of layoff. They could just shut the whole damn thing down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe in the future, we'll look back and see this as another step in the decline of Xbox that started all the way back in 2013 with that embarrassing Xbox One reveal. Or maybe not.
That's a really good point. I do think that was the decline of Xbox. The Xbox One definitely broke the trust of, like, for me, the Xbox One reveal made me a PlayStation fan. Like, I was a big Xbox Andy. Like, I had an Xbox backpack in high school. Like, and I also didn't have a girlfriend. But that kind of goes without saying. It totally broke my trust. And the thing is, what's ironic about it now is that I actually think that Xbox is the best publisher out there in terms of ethics. Like, Xbox is the most pro-consumer publisher between them, Sony, and Nintendo. So out of all the three console developers, Xbox is far and away the best.
Hope things stabilize, not just for the future of Xbox, but for the future
Obviously,
of
I think Valve is
gaming
better.
And the developers
But,
and
like,
workers that are
besides
still
that-
with the company. And hell, the developers and workers that aren't with the company anymore. There is a serious problem if Xbox is facing the need to cut at this rate. That has implications beyond if they keep their job at Xbox.
This isn't Xbox. This is a tech thing in general. Didn't Meta drop 20,000 employees last year? This is happening on a macro level.
To be jobs elsewhere to get. There's a lot up in the air right now. Morale has got to be at rock bottom at the company too. Hopefully things improve for these guys and they're able to make great games, because that's what matters, right? That's what we all hope
This
happens.
looks like garbage.
What do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, @FalconTheHero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
It's funny because I literally disagreed with pretty much every point that he made in this video, but I do appreciate videos like this being made. I think that his analysis is looking at Xbox inside of a vacuum. And there's the video. Give it a like. Game Ranks is great. I mean, they're amazing. And even though I disagree with them, you know, for me, in a lot of ways, I like videos I disagree with more. I get to talk about it more. So yeah, that's really how I see it. DEI hires are causing problems, or are they cutting entire programs? I think it's probably a bit of both. I do. And yeah, give the video a like, give them a sub. I mean, Game Ranks is huge. And it's every single industry, every corner of the world. There are people who have control and power, have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. It's happening everywhere. Tale as old as time, small. It's a lot of indie studios popping up on the horizon with great passion projects. Yeah, that's a great thing too. Xbox has got to reevaluate the kind of games they're making. They got to stop making dog shit that nobody wants. Western gaming studios are infected with a virus of the mind. They think that people want to watch fat, ugly, middle-aged women do karate tricks and kung fu. No, nobody wants that. They don't want that. That's not it. You've got to make real games. You've got to make games for gamers. If you're not making games for gamers, you're having problems. Like, whenever I saw that Gears of War E-Day trailer, I thought to myself, maybe finally they're learning. It was just Marcus and Dom fighting a fucking, some demon, and that was it. There was no bullshit. There was no weird, messaging. It was just two dudes killing a dude. That's it. If you look at Doom, The Dark Ages, I think that game was really bad. I think it was just a bad game. I know it might be an unpopular opinion, but when I compare the aura and the gameplay and the quality of something like Space Marine 2 with Doom, which are two games I really compare them a lot, it's not even in the same universe. From the competition standpoint, Xbox is not competing with anyone. None of their existing IPs are even close to Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, God of War. They're only losing money and spending to lose more money. No. If they made a new Halo, and also Warzone was the biggest BR, maybe not bigger than Fortnite, to be fair. Fortnite is just unstoppable. But other than that, Warzone was the biggest BR in 2020 and maybe also 2021. It was a huge success. Like, nobody should be thinking about that. Yeah, even PUBG. And PUBG was published by Microsoft too, I'm pretty sure too. Yeah, like, they popped the fuck off. Like, they've had a number of really big W's, and here's a W right here. The Oblivion remaster, they shadow dropped this, and I don't know how many copies they sold, but they had over 200,000 people playing this game concurrently on just Steam. Warzone was so ass. No, Warzone, when it came out, brought in loadouts and the Gulag, which totally changed the way that BRs work. And that even had other companies like Respawn. I think Respawn makes Apex. Then they had the cards, so you can bring people back too. Yeah, the buybacks, yeah, and all that. Like, there was a lot of it. Now I hear it's dog shit. Yeah, they haven't managed the IP very well. But before that, it was great. Warzone was really good. Yeah, it was. Warzone was amazing at launch. I played it every day, man. I played it every single day. It was so fucking fun. But yeah, PUBG is still huge in Asia. Yeah, I know it is. But either way, I think Xbox has a really bright future. And I think the reason why people don't see it is because they don't understand that Xbox's future is something... Xbox is going to exist as a service and not as a machine. That's, I think, what people don't understand yet. And Xbox is going to sell machines that are optimized to deliver that service, but primarily the service is going to be the product. And I think that's what... Sure, buddy? I'm telling you, that's what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong. That's what I think.
for 2025 is Ready or Not being downvote brigaded by their own community.
Oh.
At a time during the Steam summer sale where Ready or Not is 50% off on Steam, you'd think we'd see a lot more eyes on their title leading up to their console launch on July 15th. And for transparency's sake, I have a pending deal with Ready or Not to celebrate their console launch. They wanted me to jump in.
Good for him.
That was going to be some sponsored content for Void Interactive. And as you guys can now see from this chart, things aren't looking very good. It seems like for the last few days,
people went crazy
people are getting a little pissed off. Articles being written about how
controversial shooter Ready or Not drops to mixed reviews as community slams dev for censorship.
First-person shooter Ready or Not drops to mixed reviews as community slams the developers for censorship. What does this all mean? Let's talk about it. Ready or Not will be censored before launching on consoles, and it could even affect the PC version. Now, this article was published 2 days ago. It has now been confirmed this is happening to the PC version as well. And we're just gonna go to the source here and read through what's actually going on. Console rating content changes. Throughout the console port process, we've done our utmost to only make changes when they're flagged as absolutely required by our first-party partners. Our age rating as it stands for consoles is ESRB-M rating, PEGI 18, USK 18 to give an idea. Still, there are other game content requirements that console platforms have in order to exist on their systems, and a portion of these changes will be visible on the PC version. And
see, that's what's gonna piss people off, right? Is like, if you're getting your game censored just to make Sony happy, of course that's gonna make the player base mad. If you look at it from the perspective of a PC player, your game is now being changed because of something that has nothing to do with you in order for the company to make more money. Yeah, obviously they'd be fucking mad. Like, I mean, you take away the reason and you take away the purpose and you just say, we're changing the game entirely in order to make it more accessible for consoles. Yeah, and we're gonna censor it because of that. That would make anybody mad.
Instead of jumping into that, they go in and explain the reasons why. There are two main reasons that these limited asset changes may be visible on the PC version as well. Maintaining multiple versions of the game with different assets and system mechanics increases the likelihood of bugs to appear in future updates. So because this game is cross-platform when it comes to consoles, things have to have parity. If the in-game assets were not the same, it would make crossplay unusable. And because people want crossplay, both games have to remain the same.
That's true.
So what does that mean? It means we're losing a lot of gore and dismemberment. Player-induced dismemberment still has a large presence in the game, but is a little more limited.
I heard that Japan's perspective on dismemberment is a little bit more conservative than ours. That's at least my understanding about it. I could be wrong. And I think there's always the historical example that a lot of people know about that's famous, really, that in World of Warcraft, they're not allowed to show skeletons or bones. And so they have people, whenever they die, they put a tombstone down instead.
When it occurs.
That's China.
When a live enemy is shot, they can undergo dismemberment. However, once
I thought that dismemberment was also seen as problematic in Japan also. I could be wrong.
They're dead, no further dismemberment occurs. Note, the level of dismemberment itself when it occurs was not actually toned down. Ultimately, we consider this an okay compromise considering our gameplay design already dissuades use of lethal force anyway. So if you have somebody on the ground, you shoot them with a shotgun, and when they're already dead, they're no longer being dismembered. Lastly, some characters' art involving torture were tuned down slightly to be less over the top. For example, the tortured police informant on Narcos is still missing fingers, eyes, and covered in fresh wounds and blood, but a little bit less so. So it's just been toned down just slightly. Plus, some instances of explicit nudity for a handful of civilians and one suspect have been covered up a bit more. Can't show titties. It's consoles, they're babies. Explicit representations of violence and mistreatment against children. Although we already make a substantial effort to present mistreatment against children in the game in a responsible way, we made slight thematic expansions of this philosophy in order to better meet certification standards. For example, the child on Twisted Nerve has an animation change to be unconscious or sleeping instead of previously convulsive animations. So remember that kid in the top floor of Twisted Nerve who was like convulsing on the bed because she was left by her parents, probably induced something we didn't really know? That's no longer the case. This is the same team that's staring down the barrel of a gun from all of the media journalists who were shitting on them for creating a school shooter level. They came down and said, fuck that, we're gonna do it with respect, we're gonna do it right, and we're gonna do it whether you like it or not.
I think this is a really good parallel, which is the Baldur's Gate 3 bear sex scene. People don't really care about whether you can have sex with a bear in Baldur's Gate 3, but it represents a level of creative and artistic freedom that makes people think that they're really playing a art piece and they're playing something that has escapism rather than something that's made for a mass audience or made for commercial appeal. And I think that when you have games that exercise censorship in these ways, what happens is that the game loses that sense of escapism and authenticity. And I think that's really kind of the parallel that I'm drawing between these two circumstances. Art, well, yeah. And so, like, and I'm just using this as a broad term, but what I mean is that, like, for example, this is just me, but when I see a video game and it's using something that's different than male or female, I immediately think to myself, oh my God, it's one of those again. Oh, geez, it's one of these like weird games where it's like some weirdo made this game and they want to make it like, and so it takes me out of the game because I'm thinking to myself, I'm not thinking about being part of the game world anymore. I'm thinking about the game world being inauthentic at this point because it's being created in order to push a certain narrative. Elden Ring had body types though. I didn't say it's a make it or break it. I just said I don't like it. I didn't say I hate every game that has that, but I mean, I think it was stupid when Elden Ring did it too. I don't understand your point. Like, yeah, and so immersion is key. Yeah, and so that's really my point of it. Real life cause, because and also it breaks the immersion. So I think that's the reason why people are unhappy about this, is that they view that this game is it's made in a certain way and it's really brutal, it's super gory. Like, for example, like think about a movie like Fight Club or Sin City or something like that, that's like a really brutal, gory movie, or like 300, and then think about how much it would be, how annoying it would be if it got censored or toned down in order to appeal to another group of people. I think that's what's frustrating for a lot of people about this. It's not even necessarily the content itself, it's what the changes of the content represent, which is the fact that you're having your game be altered away from the developer's original vision because of a publisher trying to exercise censorship and control over that game. Now, whether you think that's fair or not, that doesn't really matter. I think it's very evident that there's a lot of people that don't like that. Berserk is a good example. Yeah, and like Berserk, there's a number of examples, you know, like obviously like the Eclipse example with Casca, and then also you have, you know, Guts as a child. These are very important parts of the story, and if they were taken out of the story, I would be upset as a fan of Berserk. Does that mean that you like that kind of content? No, but it means that you value the authenticity of an author's work and you don't want to see it be censored by a third party that is trying to exercise creative control. And I think that's kind of what's really happening here. It's not about the changes specifically, it's about why they're happening.
But when you have platforms that are telling you that you need to change the contents of your game to be less violent, to be less explicit, to show less titties or whatever, you got to play by their rules. The changes with the console version are small enough that most people here wouldn't notice if we didn't say anything, but we want to be
Just as a child, you mean Griffith? Both. Look it up.
Parent. It's largely just evidence and nudity that's altered, and the texture changes don't affect the PC version. In conclusion, they're looking forward to their console launch and relieved to be fully finished with all of their console launch certification processes. And as you probably know already, this has pissed off a lot of people. The first comment on this post is huge respect for creating one of the standout games in its genre and keeping the experience alive and thriving years after release. I gotta say, on one hand, I actually agree, and as you can see, the clown emojis are being thrown out. You're censoring the game.
Yeah, that's just people that don't like them. Yeah.
Not a fan. These ones are getting upvoted. Loving the new animations, but toning down the graphic themes of the game is a bit questionable. I actually agree. It's one of the main reasons why we all got excited about this game.
I don't think that, like, and this is another thing that a lot of people might not really understand, is that I think that in a lot of cases, a game like this, a tactical shooter game where you're going in and killing people and like holding them down with a shotgun and blowing their face off. Do you want to know who plays those games? Young guys, teenage guys, like the ages of 13 to 40-year-old men. That is, in my opinion, probably like 98% of the game's audience. Guys like that don't want to have their game censored in order to appeal to an audience that doesn't even want their game. That's the reason why. It's literally just guys. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that they're removing and toning it down in order to make the game more agreeable with consoles. And I think that the reason why PC players are upset about this is because now the PC version of the game is being affected too. So now you bought this game and now your game is being changed because of because of a console. Of course that's going to make you mad.
Back in 2017,
because kids,
when we first started seeing these concepts come to life, the school shooter level.
Like, I don't think anybody criticizes Blizzard for making a Chinese version of WoW where they don't show corpses, because it's not in the actual like Western version. But when you have whenever you force, like, for example, if the Chinese version of the game was forced on all players, I think you'd see people be very frustrated.
Like concept trailer where they showed the officers opening up the shipping container and there were kids in there being trafficked and you rescue them. Those themes are what sold us on the game in the first place. And like this person points out, it was either that, the censoring of the game, or they get an adults only rating, which is basically commercially non-viable. So here we are. We're sitting here at the cusp of a console release, and we have people now downvoting the game because they're not a fan of the censorship that is inevitably going to be coming to the PC version of the game. Now, here's the thing. For the console crowd, if there wasn't cross-play and they wanted to downtone it, like, it is what it is. The fact that
I don't think people would really care if they toned it down on the console-only version and the PC version wasn't changed.
Have already purchased the game, most likely based on some of those themes that you guys show off in the screenshots, in the trailers, and in videos that we have already made on this channel in the past. The fact that that now is being changed after a purchase for somebody is kind of a shitty thing to do. I understand not wanting to go adults only.
Especially when it's being changed in order to appeal to an audience or a group of people that you're not even a part of.
If you're putting all of these resources together to make a console version for the console crowd, you want to make as much money as humanly possible to make that money back. I totally understand the business side of why you want to go down this road. The fact that it affects the PC release when it's already been out in the open for years on end is questionable, and it just downright fucking sucks. Awake here points out, here we go again, all PC players suffer because
I think people just don't want censorship, period. There's no like fine print to this. They just don't want censorship in games. They don't want to have some corporate guy up there telling somebody that's making a game, no, you can't do this, this isn't allowed, this is bad. Or give players a choice.
of console players.
No one
Yeah,
ever asked for
refund sounds like a
censorship.
reasonable idea.
The players
after
never asked
downgrading
for
the game. Now,
censorship.
here's the thing. I don't know if I'm personally like upset enough to want to refund the game and say fuck it. Ready or Not is one of the best indie shooters that we have covered on this channel. They started off really, really rough, and they made their way to, again, one of the best releases that we have seen in a long time. But as the next comment points out, he believes that censoring certain aspects of the game is compromising the core identity of Ready or Not. And it's unfortunate that it has to be this way and the developers have to compromise. I'm sure they're not happy about it at all. I'm sure they would have loved just a one-to-one parody of whatever's on the PC version.
That's also another good point to keep in mind, is that the devs don't like, why would the devs want this? But they're just capitulating to the consoles because they want to make more money.
Can be on the console version. Probably would have made their lives a lot easier. But if I could give the developers a little bit of advice, you do not want to jump into a thread like this with this response. For clarification, the changes aren't extensive. They're only minor skin changes, with the most significant change being that players lose the ability to desecrate corpses.
Well, I mean, again, the thing is that this is, I think, one of the worst arguments that somebody can make, is that it's really small, so it doesn't matter, because it can be easily reversed back onto the developer or the person making the change. So, like, if you're complaining about something and then somebody tells you, oh, well, this shouldn't matter to you, it's just really small. Well, okay, well, if it doesn't matter to me and it's really small, then why does it exist? Why are you doing it if it doesn't matter?
Which I know for some people is like, yeah, big deal, but read the room.
There's
so
it's
many
obvious
pissed
because
off
of Karens.
People. Gerard's Gilly just goes down a little.
It's not about the change, it's about why it's happening.
Further, the woman on port gained tattered clothes instead of being nude. Small changes like that. Kaminsky.
Yeah, people don't like that. Guys don't like that. Yeah, they want to watch gritty, brutal, savage, awful games. That's what they like. Look at all the really, really popular guy movies over the years. They're all absolutely fucking brutal. Look at Mortal Kombat. There's a million fucking examples of this. This isn't what guys want.
You got to read the room.
That's it.
I think this comment really just sums up how I feel. Look, I get the overall challenge with the porting process, but that doesn't make the forced compliance of a console port censorship guideline on us feel any less icky. As somebody who backed this game back in 2000, I think it was 2017, 2018.
Yeah, John Wick, exactly.
It kind of sucks to see the neutering of that atmosphere happen because they want to put it on consoles. I totally understand. The console crowd has been begging, dude, the console crowd's been begging for fucking anything with a gun on it for years on end. I totally get it, but it does kind of suck. And as you can see, their community hub is being more desecrated than the corpse can be now. There's so many people complaining. I was about to buy this game. Fuck censorship. Crossplay was a mistake. If they censor, we should all mass downvote the game. That's what's happening now. But the thing is,
no, they should. I totally support the community in this, and the reason why is that if enough people complain about censorship, you have to keep in mind why censorship happens. So censorship happens because of the premise that some people will be offended, and the amount of people that are offended will be a larger group of people than the people that want the change. And so the change is made in order to appeal to the largest type of audience. So the way that you fight against censorship is you come together and you show that this censorship actually is more alienating to do than not, to do than not to do. So that's the way that you fight directly against censorship, is that you have to figure out, why does censorship happen? It happens to make people happy. So if censorship happens to make people happy, and then you see people that aren't happy, then the censorship loses its purpose and the censorship doesn't happen as much. That's the reason why I totally support them. It's because I don't want to see this happen to my games. I saw World of Warcraft get censored a lot. You had, like these photos, these like pictures that are made of like these characters in a game and like bikinis and stuff. And they got rid of that and they replaced them all with fruit. Well, I don't like that. Is it because I'm some kind of gooner that wants to see these characters be, like some like girl in a bikini? No, I don't care about that at all. It doesn't really matter. But what does matter is the fact that it matters to them. And the fact that it matters to them, and they want to push it into that, and they want to make me and change my media and change my game because it makes them uncomfortable. I think that as players, we need to push back against this in general. We need to push back against having games censored in order to appeal to a small minority of people who, in a lot of cases, aren't even interested in the game in the first place. And so if you can get enough people together and you can get people angry enough about this, you can reverse these types of censorship changes, or you can punish a company and damage a game so much that it kills the company and it kills the game, and it serves as an example for future developers to not make that same mistake. And I think that's the way that you have to do it, because ultimately we are the customer and the consumer is always right in matters of taste. And like, look at Concord. We killed Concord. That's it. You don't see a lot of Concords coming out anymore. It's dead. Yeah, Helldivers 2 boycott. Yes, exactly. They shut down discussions tab for the game to shut people up. It's blank except for pens now. Yeah, because they're afraid. Destroying your reputation in a game to sell a few copies on console. Smart. Exactly. And so the reason why they do this is because there's not a counterbalance for people that are able to advocate to not have media and content censored. And ultimately, I think that's what matters the most, is that it's not about whether you can dismember somebody in this video game or not. It's about whether you want to have some corporate decision maker that goes through 7 different levels of HR make that decision for you. You want to have the individual director or artist make that decision on a personal level. Now, the consumer's always right in matters today, so you get horrible watered down culture that America has now. Our music is shit. Our movies are shit. I don't think that's the reason why. But anyway, and that's the way that you fight against censorship, is that you openly, you are as loud and as negative about it as you possibly can be. And if you do that enough, the censorship goes away, because censorship is done out of fear. And so if you make them more afraid of you than they are of the people that are looking for censorship, then they won't do censorship. That's how to solve the problem. You pressure people and you put the pressure on a lot, and that gets things to change. And I understand this might sound like kind of a Machiavellian way of doing it, and it is. It works. Do you want to do the thing that will create the outcome that you want? I do. And that's how to do it.
Is mass downvotes and bitching on community hubs is only going to get you so far. When you look, like, the game's sitting at the last 30 days, gained up, it went down, came up. I'm guessing that has a lot to do with
how we got Tone Police for years. Yeah.
Right now there's 12,000 people.
Yeah. And the way that you stop tone policing is you actively push against it as loudly and as openly as possible. And you don't support people that support it at all. That's how you push it down. That's how you get rid of it. Karen strategy, loud and annoying. Exactly. And the thing is that you should never be afraid to use tactics that other people would use against you. Whenever you're looking to achieve a goal, the only thing that you should do is look at, how can I get to where I'm at? How can I get to where I want to be? And not build up a bunch of rules in your mind of how to talk. Ends justify the means. I don't think that it's really an ends justifying the means. I think it's totally fair to do this. What am I saying here? I'm saying expressing displeasure that the commercial product is being changed in a way that you don't like. I'm not saying to burn down a building. I'm not saying to go out and commit crime. I'm just saying, hey, tell people that you don't like this and that you're not going to buy a game because of it. I can't desecrate a dead body tantrum. That's right. And again, if enough people complain about that, they're going to let you do it. Keep it in mind. It's the principle that matters. At the end of the day, and I think a lot of other people, don't want to be told what I can and can't look at and what I can and can't see. It's that simple, period. It doesn't matter what the context is or anything else. Of course, there's some exceptions, but this isn't one of them, especially when I paid for it. Yes, the condescending chatter language, well, it just doesn't work on me. What if you want to desecrate corpses? What if you want to dismember them and like pull their arms off? Why shouldn't you be able to do that? It's only a video game. Who cares? Really, like, it doesn't matter. Nobody's dying. Nobody's getting hurt by this. It's not even real. Who cares?
Online, which the game doesn't seem to be losing steam at all. When you look at the charts for 2025, like, the game was kind of losing steam, trickling down, 7,000, 6,000.
You shouldn't even say this.
You know, we hit the end of the month here in June. Steam summer sale starts and starting to climb right back up to around 11,000. It's not at its highest peak by any stretch. So while it's down a little bit from where it started at the beginning of the year, where it was hitting, you know, peaks of around 20,000,
Yeah.
It hasn't dropped enough to really probably make a difference to the developers. I think they can clearly tell that a lot of people are pissed off with this change. And it's tough because I completely understand both sides of the coin. The developers want to get this into many people's hands as possible. People have been begging for them to do it, and this is the compromise that they have to make to be able to pass those certifications. But I also understand the gamer side of things. I don't think the console crowd actually cares about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading it. I think the console crowd is just going to be psyched to have a tactical shooter that they can play on a controller on their TV in their fucking living rooms. I think the biggest problem is the PC people who have paid for the game already and now have to suffer those changes. But I can completely understand it from both perspectives, but I want to know what you guys think down below. I have a feeling that a lot of you are going to be upset at those content changes and the censorship for the console crossplay parity. And while you're letting me know your thoughts down below, leave a like on the video, subscribe for more FPS content just like this. And if you guys want to support the channel, you can do so by going to gamersubs.gg, using creator code BigFry. Grab yourself a tub of GG. It's a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks, sports drinks, and all that other garbage. Grab yourself a shaker, grab yourself a tub. And if you guys want to, you can literally try it for free. You can get free samples sent to your door. You just got to pay the shipping so you can kind of see what it is. Mix it with water and you guys might find a couple flavors you enjoy before making a purchase. As always, my name is Big Fry. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, there it is. I think that was a pretty good video. I mean, he explained it pretty well. I can see why people are angry about it. I don't think console players want censorship either. I don't think that anybody wants censorship. I think this entire push for censorship isn't real. And the entire idea that there's a lot of people out there that like this would alienate them is total bullshit. It's a problem that's created by Karens. It's real? No, it's not. No, it's actually not. Like, again, I see what people like. I see what people watch. I see the kind of content that people consume. It's just simply not real. The only people that are pushing this are weirdos that want to tell everybody else what to do. That's really all there is to it. It's a false narrative. Yes, this is a false narrative that's being put forward by people that don't play these video games, that want content and media that they don't even consume to fit into their worldview. And I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you want to dismember people, blow their face off, cut their arms off, or do anything like that, I think that's totally fine because it's a video game and nobody cares. Nobody's getting hurt. There's no evil that's happening. There's no violence that's occurring. It's not real. And so the entire premise of this is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous problem, and nobody should take it seriously at all. Nobody should take people that complain about this seriously at all. And you see people that are like, where was the guy that I was talking about? Like this guy right here. And you're acting like this is some kind of a big thing, or like, oh, well, ask other people what they think about this. Well, I don't care what other people think about this. I care about what I think about this because it's my fucking game. I don't need the approval of somebody that doesn't even play. Like, why would I want the approval of somebody that doesn't consume the media that I'm interested in to tell me that it's okay to consume this media? It's so cringe.
Oh, would you look at that? Military sim people proving they need to be put on a domestic terrorist watch list with some of their ridiculous toxic behavior. In case you're ill-informed, the game Ready or Not is a military sim on Steam who recently censored a couple aspects of their game so they get it approved to be put on console, and it is now being absolutely review bombed with military sim people freaking out. What level of censorship are we talking about, Jordan? Military sims should be hyper-realistic. Listen, we are talking about extremely minor tweaks to some of the most grotesque things I've ever seen in gaming personally that I can't actually talk about explicitly here on TikTok because I will get banned. But suffice to say,
trust me that I'm right, but I can't tell you what I'm right about? That's not a good argument.
Go look it up. It's really not that big of a deal.
I'll watch a video.
You know what is a big deal?
Remember, I was going to watch this.
How obsessed military sim people are with these specific, extremely grotesque, brutal parts of the game being censored. They are so fixated on it. They look like disgusting perverts who should be like put in a psych ward. Like, you care that much about seeing that level of brutality? What is wrong with you? If you are one of the people review bombing it for this situation, I want you to do an exercise with me. Go to a family or friend, someone who doesn't play military sims or doesn't play video games, explain what the game censored, and then
well, how would that make any sense? Like, so if so you should base what you like about video games on people that don't like video games? Like, I don't even understand that. Like, so, wait, what? Why would you ask somebody who doesn't like what you like to tell you what you should like?
Explain that you want that specific part uncensored and why, and just see their reaction. Military Simulator.
I think this is a really good example of the stuff that I talk about a lot, where you have a lot of people like this. I think this is a very weak form of thinking, and I think that it demonstrates itself as being weak because it's so vulnerable to consensus of thought. His entire justification for why something is good or why something is bad is based off of whether other people like it or not. This is what herd animals do. You're literally just making an appeal to consensus. That's like that is the lowest form of self-esteem that you can possibly have.
Are supposed to be about realistic shooting mechanics and realistic physics. Yeah. They're not supposed to be.
That's not his point. No, of course it is. Why would you? The thing is that if you want something in a game, why should you have to look to somebody else's opinion? Why is your value system up for debate? Why is it that you have to justify what you like and don't like? Who decided that? Who decided that your opinions and your values and what you like is accountable to anybody else in the world? Apparently these are changes.
Goddamn
I'll look at it.
PTSD simulator, all right?
Yeah.
If you want that, go join your country's military and go experience that level of brutality. Otherwise, at the end of the day, even if it is a simulator, it is supposed to be a game.
It's so fucking cringe. And it's these weird tone policers that want to tell everybody else what to do. Wasn't there a case in Stellar Blade censorship with outfits that got a lot of backlash? Yeah, and then they changed it back. And that's it. The White Knights, in case you're ill-informed, it proceeds to call it a military sim and suggests you join the military. Dude doesn't even understand the difference in military and tactical police unit. I don't know. I mean, that's probably true. He's probably just an idiot. But I don't usually say this. You practically taste the soy in his voice. Well, there's a lot of kids like this on TikTok that, you know, have like this like what's the word for it? Like this patronizing, like, I'm better than you, I'm on the right side of history, like, mindset. And I think it goes really well on TikTok because these types of people, like, the videos are like 1.5 minutes long. And so it's something that a stupid person that doesn't really think about it at all can just immediately process and be like, yeah, this is so wrong. That's so bad. But yeah, it's just, that's it. Stop tasting people's voices. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Dean Parker. I'd say kids are smarter, maybe, right? But I think that's, yeah, the good boy mafia. The hell does that mean? Well, what I mean is that, so when you have a small, whenever you have a small form of media, you're not really discussing the entire idea of a topic. And also, you're not exploring any other perspectives other than your own. And so because of that, this is the reason why, for example, a lot of people don't want to do podcasts. This is why people criticize other politicians for not going on Joe Rogan, because you can't maintain and defend a lot of ideas on Joe Rogan. It's like the Kamala Harris thing. She didn't go on Joe Rogan. Well, yeah, because she looked like a retard. That's the reason why. And so that's the thing. And short form content's bad for brains. Yes, it's a society where virtue is a social currency. Don't be surprised where you can't reach the bar they set to tie for a while. Yeah, no, I think so. Not enough time to really fully explore the idea. Yeah, no, I think people like this are super cringe. There's a lot of TikTokers that are like this. It's pathetic, but, you know, it's not really that big of a surprise. This guy doesn't get it. He thinks people want disturbing content, but it's more trusting creators to go to the places people won't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think people, it's the same as the Baldur's Gate bear sex scene. People didn't like it because of the bear sex. They liked it because it indicated that the developer is willing to do whatever the fuck they want. And I think that people in general are tired of censored and neutered media in order to appeal to certain demographics that aren't even interested in the content to begin with. That's the real reason. That's the actual underpinning of this. It has nothing to do with the content itself, and it has everything to do with why it's happening and the people that are pushing it. So yeah, it's that simple. And my female friend loves it. Yeah, well, she's probably got a lot of books like that. Didn't Oblivion censor? Yeah, they did a little bit. And it was bad. But yeah, that's the way I see it. Weird ass shit. The content's optional for those interested. Exactly, yeah. People can do whatever they want. And I don't see the problem with that at all. Shit's bad. You thought it's bad here in the US? Over in China, every single girl, like there are all these girls in China that are trying to make it as the next big content creator, popular, like influencer in China. It is insane.
If you walk around in a Chinese city at night, you might come across something like this. Rows of people, mostly young and attractive, sitting or standing on the streets in front of rows of phones and ring lights.
Oh my God.
Singing and talking and sometimes dancing. They look like streamers, but they also look homeless. Indeed, they do gather around places where homeless people tend to be. On the sidewalks, inside tunnels.
Yeah, this is like, so if you replace this microphone with a syringe, that would basically be San Francisco.
On bridges or under bridges. There was even a bridge that became so famous for this type of gathering that people started going there just to watch the spectacle.
Oh my God.
There was so much foot traffic under the bridge that at one point it started to look like a local festival or
It's
block party.
ridiculous.
You can see people dressed up impeccably while dancing in the mud, or carrying a heavy jar of water while dancing in the mud, or downright rolling in the mud, or basically doing whatever it takes to get attention from viewers.
Is that Wukong? No shot. That's a Wukong cosplay. Oh my God. Wow.
From viewers online. Now, if you're seeing this for the first time, you probably have a few commonly asked questions.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Where are they doing that?
Money.
Are they streaming? Are they homeless? Why are they streaming outside? Why can't they stream from home? Why are they all together like that? Why can't they just stream by themselves?
True.
Why do they seem so desperate? What's pushing them to go this far?
I know why they're desperate.
Why is this happening? Why are we here? What's the meaning of life?
Oh,
the
shit.
universe.
No.
Okay,
Oh.
I got you. In this video, I
down.
will talk about this phenomenon of homeless streaming in China. I'll talk about what it is and what caused it, and in so doing paint a cautionary tale of what can happen when the attention economy goes too far. Now, like these streamers,
The problem is that there's too many hoes and not enough simps. That's the issue. There are a bunch of girls out there, but there's only so many simps that can give them money.
I'm a content creator, so
I
I feel
mean,
a personal connection to their struggle.
What?
You might not be a streamer or a content
I'm just
creator.
saying.
And that's okay, because the lessons here are applicable across culture and geography and can be useful regardless of your particular
I talked to a girl that she came from China, and I talked to her a lot about this. If you think that Western streamers and these streamer girls in the West are catty, bro, like the China and Taiwan shit, that's on a whole other level. Like, I didn't even realize that. Like, it was crazy. It's ruthless in China? Yes, it is.
Domains of human endeavor. So join me as we dive in.
Savage.
To the rise of these homeless streamers. Now, first of all, yes, they are indeed streamers, but no,
Yes.
they're not homeless, or at least not usually. So why are they out there on the street in the middle of the night? Well, they come out at night because nighttime just happens to be a peak time for streaming traffic in China. Most people would have finished work at that point and are now online seeking entertainment. So nighttime naturally has the most streamed viewers, and streamers in turn get online at night to capitalize on that. Many streamers also have day jobs and would only have time to stream at night.
That's
In
another
terms
big
of why they
reason,
do it on the
probably.
street, though, it's mostly because it makes for engaging content. You're probably seeing TikTok dancers do this, filming their content in public, sometimes to the annoyance of other people. TikTokers can and do film their content in private spaces, but there's something interesting about the real-world chaos, the cars and the cityscape and the social pressure of other people watching that can make the content more engaging to watch. And
I
these
think that's probably true. He's right about that.
Chinese streamers stream in public to capture some of that same engagement on their stream. Additionally, for some streamers, this is also an attempt to appeal to pity. The idea is that if viewers see them sitting out in the cold at 1 in the morning, they might feel empathy towards the streamers.
This is one thing that happens with people here in the US too, with streamers, is that they try to act like they don't have money or like things aren't this way. And like this is it's not as big as it used to be, but I always thought this shit was cringe, bro. Like if you've got people trying to like, you're trying to make them think that they that's you. What do you mean? It's like me. Didn't I show like how much money I made like yesterday? Like what the fuck? That's not me at all. No, but it's this entire idea of like trying to be relatable, and it's just farming losers. That's what it is.
As a result, become nicer to them and donate to their stream more often. Now, I acknowledge that this looks kind of insane. In fact, when I first started researching this topic, I had to do a sanity check and contact a few people in China to make sure that they've actually seen this with their own eyes, and this is not just AI-generated footage. And unfortunately, it is real.
Wow.
In fact, you can watch the stream from these streamers right now. You need to use a Chinese streaming platform, and here's me trying to do this a few weeks ago. I just searched for street streaming and found one after just a couple of scrolls. What was shocking to me was that I was watching this.
That's like one of their most popular like places. Like that's one of their big websites. That's like their TikTok basically.
At 1:40 in the afternoon Pacific time, which would have been about 4, almost 5 o'clock in the morning in China. So this poor girl was on the street at basically 5 in the morning. While it was kind of raining and streaming for the 46 people who were watching the stream. So the question is, why are they going this far? And sure, streaming outside might make for slightly better content, but compared to the comfort of streaming from home, what's pushing these streamers to go out in the cold in the middle of the night?
Well, it's also probably so they can attract, like, all you really need is 1 or 2 simps. Like, how many of you guys have seen, like, smaller female streamers that are pretty much completely supported by, like, 3 guys? I've seen this a lot. Whale simps? Yeah, 2 or 3 loaded simps, exactly.
First of all, there is a macroeconomic reason for this. After the COVID lockdown, China's economy has not rebounded as strongly as one would have hoped. The rate of unemployment is still relatively high, and even those with jobs might not necessarily be able to afford the cost of living in major cities. Streaming, on the other hand, has a low barrier to entry. Basically, anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do it. So naturally, streaming becomes something many Chinese people do to supplement their income. According to CCTV, there were more than 15 million professional streamers in China by the end of 2023. That means roughly 1 in every 100 people in China were streamers. In other words, the streaming industry has become incredibly competitive. It's therefore a necessity for streamers to go the extra mile, to stand out in a sea of people making similar content if they want to make money. making
in my opinion, like, this is just the way I think about it, is that I think they go about it the wrong way. They're not thinking about it the right way. Because, like, you really want to go and make money and you want to be successful, etc. What you have to do is you have to do something different. Like, oversaturated? No, it's not oversaturated. You just go in there, you do something funny, and you're still going to come out ahead. Winners win and losers lose. You always have to keep that in mind. This entire mindset that you have to follow the crowd and follow trends and everything like that, that's what losers do.
Effort to come out to the street is just one such example. But there are other factors that exaggerates this sense of desperation in streamers and push them to work harder. One of these factors is baked directly into the mechanics of Chinese streaming platforms, and it has to do with how Chinese streamers get paid. Now, many streaming platforms in the West, like Twitch and YouTube, have ad revenue sharing programs. Once streamers are qualified and accepted into the program, even if their viewers don't pay them,
that'd be crazy.
The streamers can still get paid from ad revenue. Chinese streaming platforms, on the other hand, don't have ad revenue sharing, or at least not yet at this time. So streamers' income has to come from the pocket of the viewers. That usually happens in one of two ways. First,
that's why it's a bunch of pretty girls. That's the reason why. They're trying to farm 1 or 2 simps, and that's all they need.
That viewer donation. Viewers can tip the streamers directly through these virtual
That's why they're wearing
gifts.
makeup,
this is one of the most common ways for street
skirts, wearing
streamers
high
to monetize.
heels.
The second way is live commerce, and this is basically infomercial but on streams. Streamers would talk about the product, and there will be a button at the bottom of the screen for viewers to buy. When that happens, the streamer receives a commission from the sales. Now, regardless of how it happens, the fact remains that streamers don't get paid unless viewers take money out of their own pocket and give it to them in one way or another.
That is a different
dynamic. This
dynamic.
creates an incentive, if ever so subtly, for streamers to be a bit more desperate. They seem more needy because they do need something from their viewers. Because of this...
And this is the way Twitch used to be. It's like there used to always be viewers and like streamers would used to hide their wealth and like hide the amount of money that they made. And this is something that happened really until COVID. And I think that COVID, because it was such a multiplier on like the, I hate using this term, the influencer economy, it multiplied and it got so many people engaged that it was now impossible to hide the fact that these streamers were like multi-millionaires, right? And so like you, no, not like me at all. Like I didn't even really, I don't think it was like me anyway, right? The influencer, I mean, that was never like me. But all the streamer incomes got leaked during COVID. Yeah, I was number 8. Remember that? That was a good day. And so, but yeah, there were a lot of people that had that happen. And so then, like, that was the disillusionment. Because do you remember how many viewers were, like, really angry and upset whenever they realized that so many of these streamers made such a tremendous amount of money? Like, that was one thing that I thought was really, really surprising, is that people got really, really upset about that.
There were memes circulating on Chinese social media that compares these street streamers to beggars. Here's one such meme, and the top here says old school beggars, and the bottom says new age beggars. Now, I can see some resemblance, but to be fair, streamers do provide some form of entertainment. They do sing and
so
dance
do crackheads.
And so on. So a better comparison might be to street performers rather than beggars. There's another thing that sets streamers apart from beggars, and that's the fact that many street streamers are often parts of a business or company that specializes in social media content creation. These companies are officially known as MCN, or multi-channel network.
Yeah, this is a big thing on YouTube.
They're basically streaming agencies or influencer agencies. They provide streamers with training, equipment, help them broker sponsor relationship, and with other logistical tasks in exchange for a cut of the streamer's revenue.
Pretty simple.
Now, you might wonder why any influencer would want to give up a portion of their revenue to join an agency. You've got a smartphone and a data plan, so just point the camera at yourself and hit record, right?
Yes.
How hard could it be? Well, there are actually a lot of things content creators need to do that has little to do with creating the content itself. For instance, I just spent a week filing my taxes. Even though my channel was monetized for less than 2 months last year and made about $200, I still had to include that business activities on my tax filing.
Of course.
Because there's apparently a difference between cash-based accounting and accrual-based accounting. And if you don't know what any of that means, I didn't either. So that's how I spent a week. Thank you for asking. Now, no
Yeah,
offense to the
You
accountants
got
out
like
there.
royalties, 1099s. It's like a totally different system, and like the tax forms that you fill out are different. You're employed differently. You have to shift your taxes. Like my taxes, I think last year were like this much. It was a lot.
This is fascinating stuff, but as a content creator, it's probably more efficient and relevant for me to spend a week researching for this video topic instead of learning how to depreciate a capital asset at fair market value. The idea of a company taking care of these kind of things for me, it sounds like a great value proposition in theory. But in practice, joining an agency, especially in China, usually means giving up on some degree of creative and career freedom. And depending on how ethical the agency you're working with is, you could be giving up on a lot of freedom to the point that you are trapped contractually. As part of
this is what happens with a lot of MCNs and a lot of other networks, and this is especially true with VTubing, and it's like at least historically true, is that you have a lot of these companies that end up basically, the people don't even realize it, but they're signing a Faustian pact, a deal with the devil, and they don't realize that, like, Tfue was a victim of this with FaZe back in the day. And I think that you also had other instances of this happening also, like Nija Sanji had a lot of drama about their contracts also. And in general, people lose, they become slaves. Yeah, and those are like two different examples. There's Gura, there's like why she rebranded to Saba and everything. Like, why is that? People are like, you're never really going to know, but like people kind of put two and two together and they assume that to be the case. And so, I don't want to give up like a lot of names or like say anything specifically, right? Because I don't want to get sued, to be honest. But it's fairly well known that a lot of these deals are just simply not always advantageous to the creators, and they are sometimes at the expense of the creators. That's another great example. All gas, no brakes. Remember Channel 5? Used to be all gas, no brakes. And because they had sold that IP, it took them a long time to retain that. And Andrew recently got that IP back in the last month or so. Doki Bird, another good example. Yeah, that was Nija Sanji. So this is very, very common. And I think also it's predatory in the case that a lot of these people that run these companies, they know that they're dealing with people that are categorically unfamiliar with certain spaces like accounting or things like that. And so, or like intellectual property or anything else like that. And that's what happens.
Joining an agency in China, streamers might face restrictions on what kind of content they can stream, where and when they have to stream, and quotas, like how much revenue they must generate per week. And keep in mind that Chinese streamers don't make revenue until viewers give it to them. Failing to meet these quotas could result in fines. And if streamers try to leave the agency before their contract's completion, they could get sued. So it's easy to see how these restrictions can intensify desperation and push streamers to hustle ever more frantically to avoid breaching contract terms. For example, you might have seen clips like this circulating on the internet. People have called them influencer factories, and these would have been operated by influencer agencies. Not all of them look this bad, though. There are some with better conditions, like this one based in Indonesia. But the business idea is the same.
That's the better one?
It's to streamline the content creation process. From training to filming to distribution.
Oh my God, look at this.
So the content
this is so dystopian.
Manufactured like commodities in factories. And many of these street streaming gatherings are just the other side of the same coin. Now, some street streaming gatherings are formed organically from independent streamers, but we know that many are organized by agencies because there are hints in the footage that reveal this. For example, here, the streamers are all using the same ring lights and nearly identical setups. You can also sometimes see tech support staff assisting the streamers. There's even a continuous red carpet that are laid out on the ground sometimes, indicating that the team had come and set this up beforehand for their streamers as part of an organized business operation. Regardless of how these gatherings form, there is something off-putting about them. They look almost dystopian, like something out of a Black Mirror episode.
Yes, it is.
One of the reasons it looks so jarring is because it juxtaposes a series of polar opposites that really shouldn't belong together. For instance, it juxtaposes the appearance of wealth and fame to poverty and obscurity. These streamers are all dressed in
and you can see that like there are some guys, but it's like a 10-to-1 ratio.
Glamorous clothing with beautiful makeups in front of spotlights and cameras as if they are celebrities. Yet in reality, they are out on the street like homeless beggars. It also juxtaposes human connections and loneliness. On one side, viewers from all around the country are connecting intimately with their favorite streamers, a modern miracle.
And also these girls, a lot of them use like face filters and all kinds of other shit too. Like they might look one way, but like whenever you see them on camera, it's totally different. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, exactly. And super filtered. Yeah, they've got AI filters and all this other stuff. No, I'm not gonna name any names. Like there are some girls like you will meet them and like, damn, this bitch is hot, right? Like she actually looks the way she does on the camera. But like a lot of them, like I've had situations where it was like, who is this? What's your name? I don't even recognize you.
By the internet. On the other side, everyone is alone. Most viewers are probably in a room by themselves staring at a screen, while the streamers sit just inches apart from each other, yet never interact. Everyone is locked in the prison of their digital worlds, appearing to connect, yet never really do. It juxtaposes collectivism and individualism as well. China has a collectivist culture, after all. So by and large, people prioritize social cohesion and group well-being above their personal ambition. These street gatherings seem to trend towards this kind of collectivism. Everyone is sitting in front of the same equipment while doing the same things. It looks like they are one unit, working towards the common goal.
I think the problem really is that it's so inauthentic. Like, why would somebody watch or like get attached to this whenever they realize that it's like, you know, are you going to get attached to like, you know, the dairy cow number 943 on the farm? Probably not. And so I think a lot of these people, they go into it, and this is the other big reason why, is that my understanding is that China has like another similar problem that we have, where a lot of people have high unemployment. It's hard to get a job. And you have people even in China, and this is also true in other Asian countries, that have basically just totally given up on life because they realize that they can never gain employment in a way that's like meaningful. And so, yeah, wealth inequality is going hard, like everything like that's going super hard.
But the reality is quite the opposite. It's hyper-individualistic.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
The streamers aren't working towards any sort of collective well-being. Rather, each streamer is out for themselves, climbing over each other to take a slice from a pie that is only so large.
And you can see this too on Twitch. Like, this is one big difference between Twitch and YouTube, is that on YouTube, there are so many viewers that there's an abundance that people don't feel the need to cannibalize each other's viewers in the same way that they do on Twitch. But on Twitch, there's a lot more competitiveness because the market is more limited and discoverability is based off of popularity. So for example, like if I look at like my stream right now, where is it? Let me see, I can just pull this up on Twitch. If I look at it, it is beneficial for me, and I gain a passive advantage right now because we have the top stream on the entire platform. This is a big thing. And so there's a snowball effect that continues to happen. Do you see kind of what I'm saying? GBMX 10K viewership. Well, what I'm saying is that the more people come in and the more people watch, the more you get discovered. So it just builds on itself and on itself and on itself. So yeah. It's also in real time. Yeah, definitely.
So many viewers on the platform that.
And so that increases the amount of competitive behavior. Chinese streamers are regional though. Twitch is global time zones. Yeah, but do you think like they're still fighting for the same simps? You realize there's only like maybe a handful of simps in China that are willing to give some random pretty girl $1,000. So they're all fighting over that same guy that wants to give a pretty girl $1,000. That's it.
Each of them with only so much budget for tips. For one streamer to gain a viewer's attention and tip is for another to lose it. And this individualistic zero-sum competition leads to the last juxtaposition, the appearance of individuality and its complete erasure. The point of streaming is supposed to be genuine connection. It's a platform for streamers to show their authentic personality and uniqueness for their fans to connect with. And each streamer here appears to try to do that. They're all dressed up, enthusiastic, and entertaining. But in reality, they've lost their individuality in their very attempt to show it. The reality is that they're all doing the same things in front of the same gears. This process of mass production of content has turned content creation into a commodity. And each streamer is but one of many identical cogs in the content creation machine that churns out the same sort of...
This is the same problem that we have here in the West. There's a lot of streamers, like if you scroll down and you look for Fortnite streamers that have 70 viewers, you're going to see a lot of the same person. And it's the same thing as like ASMR streamers or anything else. Like they're all basically doing the same thing, because this is one other big issue that happens with streaming, is that because it's such a zero-sum environment, people try to copy each other and do the same thing better rather than take risks with more avant-garde content, because of the nature of the fact that discoverability, popularity equals discoverability, and discoverability equals popularity. So you always are focused on farming metas, and you're always focused on doing things that are kind of already proven successes rather than anything else. Bridie's where it's at. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
MP4 files onto the influencer factory conveyor belt. Now, what's happened to the Chinese content creation industry is something I'll call rat racification. That is not a real word, but
it's pretty obvious what that means.
I'm going to use it to refer to this process of transforming otherwise creative and productive pursuit into zero-sum hustle. Content creation was a cool thing initially. It was a venue for creatives to share their work, and people who resonated with them could start following them. It was sort of amateur and underground, and Asian parents had yet to agree that it was a real job. And then people started noticing how much money was in it and began to flood into the industry. There was enough financial reward there for some people to be willing to go to the extreme to win. Next thing you know...
like I've had a lot of people tell me, like they see like the fact that like my stream does well, and they're like, oh man, maybe I should stream too. And like I always tell people, like, if you want to go and start streaming, go ahead and try it, right? I mean, like, you might as well. I mean, if you think that you can do a good job, like I thought I could do a good job, and I did. And so like there are going to be other people that do that too. But it is pretty hard to do that. And I think also another big issue is that a lot of the people that are successful do things that a lot of people that want to be streamers don't want to do. Like, for example, for me, I'm live every single day. I cover topics that I think are interesting to me, but I also focus on doing things that are interesting to my audience too. I try to follow trends. I try to listen to what people are saying, and I try to be entertaining all the time. I don't just simply turn on the camera and start playing a video game. Other people do that, and that generally has a lower rate of success. So really, when you want to succeed in something, you have to exceed your competition, and you have to do something in a way that's more compelling or interesting than other people. And so he said not to follow trends 10 minutes ago. Well, and that's the thing, is that a stupid person would say that, like, oh, but I said don't follow trends, but now you're saying do follow trends. A stupid person wouldn't be able to understand that distinction, but a person who will be successful will. And so that's not really my fault, that's yours. The point that I'm making here, though, is that in a lot of these cases, these streamers do have this problem, and they have a lot of problems like this, and a lot of them don't really have the opportunity to really grow, and they also don't take the necessary actions in order to grow. They're not, like, they don't do what they need to do in order to succeed. Basically, like, what I'm saying is that if you took a streamer council of me, XQC, Soda Poppin', Kai, and Hassan, and you put the 5 of us together to evaluate what streamers are good and which streamers are bad, we would have a lot of the same opinions, because there are commonalities that exist across all markets and all types of behavior. I'm just telling you, like, that's it. Lost Me at Hassan. You might not like Hassan, but it's undeniable that Hassan has built himself a large audience, and he's successful at streaming. He is. And he does a lot of the same things that I do because I see him do it. You might not notice it, but I do.
The whole endeavor became a zero-sum rat race, something that isn't so different from the traditional rat race, like working at a bad office job with an exploitative employer. So you can sit in your street cubicle and do streaming work the same way you sit in your office cubicle and do paperwork. Just a different flavor of soul-sucking, but your soul is getting sucked either way. This doesn't just happen in Chinese content creation, of course. In the West, for instance, you can find courses online that teach you how to churn out basically garbage content quickly or even in an automated fashion so that you can extract easy and fast income or even passive income.
That's what people try and do all the time.
And this is
like with repurposing and reposting clips and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely common. And like what I'm saying is like a lot of the people that are bad streamers, the reason why isn't some sort of abstract luck reason. It's actually extremely defined and very easy to identify why someone isn't successful.
Limited to the content creation industry either. Rat racification can and has happened to many industries. But personally, as a content creator, it is a shame for me to see the rat racification of my industry in real time and its effect on people. Since I started making content, I've made many YouTuber friends who have since quit making videos. Many of them have come to content creation with one expectation, and when that expectation wasn't met, they soon burnt out. Now, this is just a personal theory of mine.
Happens to a lot of streamers too. It's super common.
But I think the rat race is a choice to some degree. I believe that it's possible to not participate in the rat race, even if the industry one is in is rat racifying in real time. In other words, just because other people in my industry are rat racing out of control doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do it too. Now, I'm not giving...
That's true. I think that you have a lot of streamers that exist outside of that spectrum. I think one guy who's a great example of that is Northern Lion. Like, he does follow trends to an extent, but he's not constantly trying to collab with every new streamer and do all this other new stuff. He kind of just stays in his own lane and does his own thing. And I think that if you want to build a long-term level of success, Forsen's another one who does that as well. Lyric is another one. You don't have to, but Lyric, obviously, and all of these guys will capitalize on trends sometimes. Like, you know, Forsen, if there's a new game that has open voice chat and it's an open world game like Atlas, you can guarantee Forsen will be playing that probably on the first day. If there's a new, video game that comes out that's like a single player game, you can guarantee Lyric will probably be playing that on the first day. Maximilian, Max, if there's a new fighting game that comes out, Max is going to be playing that. And so all of these guys, they're not necessarily inside of the rat race, but they still have their areas of, I wouldn't really say expertise, but their areas of being prolific in, where like they very commonly make content in this way. It's the same as I used to be with niche. Yeah, they have their own niche as well, their own branding. Like I used to be like this with MMOs a lot. I've become less like this, but even now people still associate me with that for that reason.
Career advice here, and I'm not saying what I'm doing is the only way, but just to use it as an example, I had a friend who asked me this once. He said, Lewis, look at these big YouTube channels like Mr. Beast, right? They have much bigger budgets and teams of professional writers and editors. All you have is a camera and a keyboard, so how can you possibly compete?
Well, now, this is always critical. It's again, like it's defeatist attitude. That's a loser attitude. Losers think like that. Winners don't think like that. Losers do.
It's just my take on it. I don't think I am competing with Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast makes great content, but the content he makes looks nothing like the content I make.
Yeah.
In fact, the only commonality between our content seems to be that we're both breathing while filming and maybe speaking in English. I'm looking for something more specific. I'm looking to create content that falls in the intersection between what I love making, what I'm good at making, and what people like watching. And
this is what a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of streamers live inside of one of these circles or two of these circles, but success exists inside of all three of them.
Intersection will be different for different creators, almost by definition. I learned this from listening to Naval Ravikant, although I think it might actually be a variation of the Japanese philosophy of Ikigai. So feel free to look into these sources further if you're interested in this idea. I adopted the idea for YouTube, but the original is much more general and can be applied to pretty much any industry. The idea is that you should pick an endeavor that falls in the intersection of what you love doing, what you are good at, and what people are willing to pay you for. Now, if someone is exclusively motivated by money, they'll tend to ignore what they love doing. They'll push hard on what they are good at and what they'll get paid for, And that is one way that you could get yourself into a rat race. If you're just
and you also burn out that way too. I see a lot of streamers do that, where like they constantly try to chase trends and do things in order to like get the most viewers, and then eventually it doesn't pay off for them, and then they get frustrated and stop streaming.
It out and hustling, then you're not getting anything intrinsic out of the experience. And that's a problem, not because of some romantic notion of this "you must do what you love" cliche.
It's bullshit.
The reason is much more practical. Exclusive outcome orientation is a problem because it's a competitive disadvantage. If you're good at something but hate it,
you're self-motivating.
Someone else who is also good at it
you're not.
but love it will outdo you. The trick is therefore to be ambitious enough to follow your passion, but never be so idealistic as to lose sight of what you're good at and what people will pay for.
He's completely
right. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. On average,
this is actually like this right here should be mandatory listening for anybody who is wanting to be a streamer. This insight is exactly this is exactly how you should think about things.
Takes a lot of time and countless trial and error, and success isn't guaranteed. For example, I'm still iterating to find my sweet spot in the intersection between these three circles regarding my own effort on YouTube. My channel hasn't made enough revenue to cover what I've spent since I quit my job, so I'm still in the red so far. And it remains to be seen whether it'll work out before I run out of savings. I am ready, though, to take my resume back to the job market if it doesn't work out. And I'd probably keep making content on the side and try again once I have enough savings. Because I remember what it was like to push myself to do only what people are paying me for when I worked as a corporate consultant for a few years. No, I'm not saying all jobs are bad, but that particular one just wasn't for me. It was a grind and created a lot of unnecessary human misery. So I think it's worth it.
There's a lot of people also that like there are days where, like, I'll be honest, there are days where I don't really want to stream, but I go live anyway because that's what I do. And I know people want to see me to go live. They want to see the content, and that's it. Like and again, there are times where I think treating content creation as a hobby is effective, and times where treating content creation as a job are effective. And too much of one and not enough of the other will create a distortion, and it will hurt your content. But you're no longer dependent on this. Why still do it? Because it's what I do. It's what I like doing. And there's a lot of reasons why. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Like, I like doing it. I think that's number one. But there's a lot of other things besides that. Do you ever experience burnout? Yeah, sure. Sure, I'll get tired of something. I mean, I'll be honest, with all this stuff with my dad and everything, it's been really hard for me to go live recently. It has been. I've been super stressed out. I've been sleeping all day. I haven't been able to, like, do anything else besides that. I have been fucking, like, absolutely out of my mind. It's been awful, but it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, everybody has problems. Like, there are plenty of times you probably had to go to work whenever you had stress at home or in your life. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, and so the more that you give in to weakness, the more you become weak. And so the more important thing to do is to focus on being able to overcome challenges and being able to work through them. Because the more that you indulge yourself in weakness, the more you practice being weak. And so that's it.
To take some time to figure out a way to avoid that, even if it takes a long time. Especially when I know that it's possible to avoid the rat race, as I've seen people succeeding at it. And even in something as competitive as Chinese streaming industry, there are examples of people who have figured out ways to navigate it while maintaining their sanity and passion.
Sure,
I'm not talking about the
have.
sort of get-rich-quick stories that streaming agencies often use for recruitment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about stories like this one, where a streamer figures out a path over time to create useful products and services and uses content as a way to find the people that can benefit from them.
Exactly.
Now, this is not a report of someone who's become insanely rich, but maybe that's not the point of their journey. And their journey is still ongoing, so who knows where it will end up. And the point is that it looks like they are enjoying their journey so much that it's already fulfilling, regardless of its destination. Now, I want to acknowledge the possibility that some industries can be so toxic that the only way to compete is to rat race, and one might rarely have to switch industry to get out of it. I'm not saying that it's easy to find a sustainable and meaningful career.
I've always found that rat racing sometimes can be enjoyable in itself because it's like a competition. And if you don't enjoy any form of competition at all, you're going to have a really hard time existing in a free market. And so if that's your mindset, I would say you probably should try to reevaluate how you see things that way. Yeah, if you win, well, sometimes even when you lose, you learn why you lost. Or like, let's say you get 3rd place. Okay, well, that's not 8th place. That's it. This is wrong. Yeah, homie could never fail in front of the camera. The jawline. Yeah, I know. But can't stand competition, would rather hermit. Yeah, and it's hard. How would you reevaluate? Well, it depends on what it is.
I'm not saying everyone will succeed at it for sure. I'm not trying to dole out baseless motivation here.
Yeah.
As you may have noticed, a lot of the topics I cover are quite depressing. At some point, we all need to connect with reality, and reality can be unforgiving. These haunting footage of rows of street streamers is one manifestation of that stark fact. But it is precisely because the consequences of succumbing to the rat race are so dire that it is important to not give up on looking for sane and meaningful ways to navigate it. So I hope that the story of the homeless streamers did not make you jaded.
It's
I hope
crazy,
that serves you as a reminder to tread mindfully on your journey to find meaningful work, so that there may be a source of sanity, at least from your corner of the universe. The world seems to need that right now, so thank you for your efforts, and best of luck.
This is a really good video. I do. I think this is a very, very good video. And especially the ending of it. I mean, I think the ending of it, the beginning was very informative for like streamers in China, but like the ending definitely is like more of a content creator focused thing. And it can be applied to a lot of other ways of looking at things too. Yeah, I really like this guy. He's only got 20,000 subs. Louis Zhao. I'll give him a like, give him a sub. Let me link you guys his channel here. And yeah, I mean, this video he did, I guess he put it out 2 months ago, has like 300K views. It was really, really well designed. But it's about to take off. I mean, I hope so. I hope to see that. And that's it, man. He makes good strategies. Yeah, it's smart. And there's a lot of streamers too that, you know, they do things for money. You're not dependent on streaming daily. So do what's in your best interest. And that means you're competing for the top YouTube spot. Not streaming daily works for that. Well, I mean, if I want to be more popular on YouTube, the main thing that I should do is stream less. That's the truth. Like, if I wanted to be more popular on YouTube, like I help people make strategies, and I help people like off stream figure out how to create outcomes that are beneficial for themselves. So what I generally do in a lot of cases is I look at basically what I do in order to solve a problem is I break down how this problem exists, why it exists, and basically what the problem is. I understand what the problem is, because if you can't understand what the problem is, you can never solve the problem. And so once I understand that, I create a system for how to address that problem on a personal basis or on a macro level, right? And so whether that is playing a video game, farming an item, streaming, or I don't know, like doing something like making a garden, you have to understand a process and then deconstruct the process and then figure out how to take advantage of that process and then look at what other people do that are successful. Like for me personally, when I first started making content, this may come as a big surprise. Spoiler alert, it's not. My big inspirations, Kriparian, Rekful, and Athene. That's right. You would have never guessed, huh? Especially if you look at my old content. And so that's exactly what it was. And so I looked at what those guys did, and I said, okay, well, they're doing that really well. I want to do that, but I'm going to do this part differently, and I'm going to do this part differently, right? Athene, Pog? No, Athene used to be a legend. Athene was the man. Like, I don't care about, like, some drama that he's involved in now or whatever. Like, 2007 Athene was the pinnacle of content at the time, okay? And so I'm not really trying to get into any of that bullshit. So my point is that if you know how to solve problems, that's what will really help you more than anything else. Yeah, and that's the weakness that I think a lot of people have, is that they don't know how to solve any sort of problems, and they don't know how to approach them in a way that's beneficial. And they also, and I think this is the main thing, is that this is with streaming and with anything else, people are unable to overcome problems because they can't identify them. And I think that if you can't identify where your weaknesses are, you can never overcome them. You can never get better at them or anything like that. And so the problem is most people just don't want to solve their problems. Well, and this is another big issue that a lot of streamers have. A lot of streamers do what they want to do. And you know what? Sometimes that's not the right decision. Sometimes it's better to do what other people want you to do. And sometimes it's better to do what's better for your stream. And that's the way it is. That's the way every job is. Definitely. Yes, exactly. People have ego, stubbornness, exactly. Like, there are times I do stuff that I'm like, oh, maybe I don't really feel like doing this today, but everybody really wants to see it. I'm going to do it anyway, right? And it doesn't mean you have to, like, hate it or whatever. And to the extent that you do hate it, you're going to be a failure. You have to learn how to do things that you don't want to do. The big problem with streaming is that a lot of people, and content creation, is that a lot of people want to get into streaming and content creation because they don't want to be told what to do. But the reality is that if you're a successful entrepreneur, you'll know that there's no harsher boss on yourself than you. You never are off the clock. You're always thinking about your work. And the people that are successful have to consciously delegate time away from that. And like for me, I'm thinking about this all the time. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, at least it's yourself. Well, and yeah, and there's always, there's grass is always greener on the other side. There are positives, right? Like working at the IRS. If I could make the same amount of money streaming, working at the IRS, there would be a number of days that I would probably rather work at the IRS because I liked that job. It was enjoyable. I didn't have to talk all day, and I could just focus on doing something. It would tell me exactly what to do, and I would just apply that job. That would be it. And so, like, of course. Now, I certainly wouldn't do that with Sam's Club. Holy fuck. I worked at Sam's Club. That was awful. But, yeah, what about the advice of just doing it instead of stalling? Well, yeah, and that's, how much did you make? I don't know, like $15, $16 an hour. But this was like over 10 years ago. It was a great salary. And so, yeah, boring job's the best job. Yeah, you clock in and clock out. Exactly. And so, yeah. And we talked about how NMP is a scumbag yet. No, I don't like covering drama with my friends. Sorry to say. I know some people like and also I don't want to give people the runaround with that, where it's like, oh, I'm not above drama. I just don't want to cover drama with friends of mine. Why? Because I'm biased. Because I'm biased, I don't want to do it. Yeah, that's it. Like if Nick and Donut Operator and Brandon and Tectone and all of them and Raw Alerts want to get in some internet fight, this is not my fucking problem. It's not my fucking problem. I am biased. I know a lot of the guys involved. I've talked to Brandon. I've talked to Donut. I've talked to Nick. I know Tectone. I even cover Raw Alerts content as well myself. So I'm going to be biased. I'm going to give you my take that has insight that is from behind the scenes. In my opinion, I think that I know what the problem is. A lot of other people don't know what the problem is. I do. But that's private. That's it. NMP would farm hate on you, though? No, he wouldn't. What do you mean? What are you talking? That's not even true. There's this weird thing that's happened with some of my viewers that they think that, like, Nick, because Nick has been friendly with Hassan before, and then Senna said that thing about me in the car, that Nick is like some kind of a rat and he doesn't like me, or he's trying to make me look bad. I talk to Nick on a regular basis. Like, I see where, like, I even talked to Senna about that clip, and I see where she's coming from. It's not a problem. A lot of people insert themselves into streamer relationships, but you have to understand that I've known Nick for 8 years. 9 years. I just looked at the clock. 9 years. That's it. People think Yeet posting NMP is him farming you. I don't know what he's... I don't know. But either way, that's it. Yeah, and chance, same thing. Yeah, exactly. So our friends that are my business. Yeah, and so, what was your first meeting with Nick? Through like, well, I met him in like WoW, but like IRL with like Train and Mitch back in the day. So yeah, that's the way I feel about it, and I don't like commenting on drama for friends of mine, and that's just it. I don't want to do it. Nick doubling down on Reddit was fucked up, bro. I didn't even see that. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't see that. I don't know about that. I have no idea. But I know a lot of people want me to go in and talk about all that stuff, etc. But it's just total, like not something that I want to deal with. You're biased, so any take from you would seem disingenuous. Exactly. So like if and that's the problem, is I've realized this about myself, is that this is something that I think people like, I think pirate software should realize, is that sometimes you can be right in your mind. You can have every bit of evidence in your mind. It can be proven. Everybody knows that this is like this is true, right, in your mind, but people will not see it. I am past the point in my life of trying to make people see it. That's it. And so if I realize defending Pirate again, I'm not defending Pirate again. If anything, I'm criticizing Pirate. I'm saying that he doesn't realize that. He thinks that he can reason people out of certain positions and he can explain certain things. There are a lot of people that even if he proves them wrong, 100% will still say that he's wrong. It doesn't matter. And so when I see something like that on the internet, I realize when to cut my losses. I say, okay, I get it. All right, let's move on. That's it. Yeah, you're saying, right? Yeah. You can show a graph right in front of them, they won't care. Yep, there it is. And that was true. I always assume someone's guilty the moment that they're accused. Ask them, what's something you tell yourself in your late 20s? Man. I think that just reminded me I'm not in my late 20s, and that was a while ago. That's crazy. Wow. Wow. Holy shit. Brush your teeth? Oh, no, bro. They were cooked from like 23 onward, okay? Like I had my first teeth pulled out whenever I was like 23 years old. It might have been 22. It was 22 or 23. So, yeah, bro, they were cooked all the way back then. No, I wouldn't really change a whole lot if I could go back. Better go back when you have your energy, your 20s. I feel like in general, I feel pretty energetic even now, right? I mean, I don't have any problems at all. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Pores get teeth pulled instead of root canals. True, brother. Exactly. Bro, it's wild. I'm same age as you, and a 17-year-old girl was helping me at work, and I realized I was literally twice her age. Rough. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot, bro. Like, that's just a lot. Like, I think about that. Like, that's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, what is going on? Yeah, that's a whole lot. That's rough, buddy. I know. You're not that old. Come on. Not even the golden years? Yeah, sure. And would you tell yourself to play more single-player games? No, I wouldn't tell myself. I would say, keep doing it. Yep. Just keep doing it. I don't really, I feel like in my life, I don't really have a lot of regrets. I have no regrets in my life, really, that I can think of. There are, like, minor things, like, oh, I wish I had done this differently or whatever. But in a general sense, I don't have any regrets. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't really change a lot of, like, pivotal moments in my life or anything else. It's just, I think it's just, that's like a childish way to look at the world. Buying Bitcoin early is my only regret. Not buying it? No, because if I bought Bitcoin early and I ended up with, like, let's say $10 million worth of Bitcoin, then who knows what kind of problems that would have created in my life. And I might not have ever pursued anything else that was challenging or meaningful. So, like, I mean, I don't even think about it in that way. It's silly. You have sold way before now. Maybe I would have, maybe not. I don't know. But either way, that's it. No, why torture your brain over that? Yeah, I never think about any of that stuff at all. Wouldn't it become a streamer? Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. There's a butterfly effect? Yeah, I mean, I remember watching that movie growing up, and I always thought about it from that perspective, too. You're definitely right. Let's see here, but I'll talk about this. Would you have tried to get your mom healthier? No, it's because that's not what she wanted. She was an adult. She's going to do what she wants to do. If she wants to smoke cigarettes, eat Taco Bell, drink Pepsi all of her life, that's her life. She's going to do that. She's entitled to that. And also, I tried to help, but that's it. That's the way that she wanted to live. That's it. Like, I mean, again, like, respect. Yes, you cannot save a person from themselves. You cannot make a person care about the things that you care about. You can't make people see things in the way that you see things. It's totally it's so unhealthy to do that. You can't control a person? No, you can't. You cannot do it. And yeah, that's the way I see it. Anyway, you can't change old people? Yeah, exactly. No, I don't regret anything, and I wouldn't change anything if I could go back.
We have a third party because he claims, somewhat unusually, that the Democrats and the Republicans are exactly the same party because both of them, in his eyes, just simply run up the US government debt and are completely irresponsible. The key here is, and it's the starting point, I think, for serious discussion, is it's one thing to tweet that you're going to form a new political party. It's a very, very different thing to actually organize that party and to do it on a very quick time frame, given that we're only about 16 months before the November 2026 congressional elections.
So, the lovers' quarrel between US President Donald Trump and Elon Musk has taken another turn as the space and car billionaire announced he is forming a new political party. Musk's new America Party, as he announced on X, comes after he warned that Trump's big, beautiful bill would bankrupt America. Here to tell us more is Professor Scott Lucas, professor in US politics at the Clinton Institute, based at the University College Dublin. Thanks very much for joining us, Scott. Tell us a bit more about this. What are the rules? Can Elon just form a new political party?
No, well, thank you, Harry. First of all, let me throw in to your theme, since we're talking Musk and Trump, the cover of Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart, the Nouvelle Vague. Now, these two guys, Musk and Trump, having effectively been partners in arms to, some would say, remake the U.S. government, some would say tear it apart, have split over the last few weeks because of Musk's opposition to Trump's legislation, slashing taxes for the wealthy in particular, and removing support for renewable energy. So Musk has been building up over the past few days to the idea that he's going to challenge Trumpist legislators. Not all of them, but a handful in the Senate and in the House with his own candidates. How's he going to do it? Well, he announced that overnight by saying, the America Party, that's it. We have a third party because he claims, somewhat unusually, that the Democrats and the Republicans are exactly the same party, because both of them, in his eyes, just simply run up the U.S. government debt and are completely irresponsible. The key here is, and it's the starting point, I think, for serious discussion, is it's one thing to tweet that you're going to form a new political party. It's a very, very different thing to actually organize that party and to do it on a very quick time frame, given that we're only about 16 months before the November 2026 congressional elections.
So, I mean, the famous example people of my generation will remember is Ross Perot, a businessman who stood for US president way back in 1992. And I was looking it up, he got an astonishing amount of the vote. He got nearly 20 million votes. He got 18.9% of the electorate. But of course, he didn't win a single state because, you know, your system is very hard. It's even more first past the post than we are in some ways.
Yeah, it is, Harry. And there's a big difference there. I mean, I appreciate the example, but Ross Perot is running for president, right? You know, and so that's a single campaign. Elon, of course, can't run for president because he was born in South Africa. What he's talking about is running multiple campaigns, because when you talk about Congress, you're talking not just about a national election. You're talking effectively about 50 state elections, and indeed districts within those states, all occurring on the same day. So it would be like if Elon Musk is pursuing the equivalent of a UK general election by fielding candidates across multiple constituencies. Indeed, I think the interesting parallel with Musk, given the place of social media in this, given the place of what you might call insurgency in politics, is the Reform Party in the UK.
Well, that's an interesting comparison because, of course, on current polling, Reform, even though they only have 5 MPs, and I think they actually lost one yesterday, as is their habit, they are on track to actually win our general election. So, I mean, surely Musk couldn't. I mean, Musk could win. Could he win one or two? Could he get one or two congressmen in? Could he make enough of a difference just to sort of swing things in his favor?
Well, without intervening too far into UK politics, I think that Reform example is interesting because it's one thing to say that you poll very, very well. Reforms still have to go out and field the candidates in a general election. They still have to organize themselves. And we've already seen, in terms of, although Reform did very well in local elections, the turmoil that's occurred just in recent weeks, where they've lost 2 by-elections within weeks of their victories because the candidates they put up for councils suddenly resigned or were forced to resign. You know, that's the kind of thing which happens when you try to build up from scratch very, very quickly, and all of a sudden just say, here are our guys, right? Now, let's come back to whether Musk could do that, however, by running a focused campaign. If Musk does what he says he will do, which is focuses on 2 to 3 Senate campaigns and 8 to 10 House races, I think that is manageable. I think he can do that. But the first thing here is, who are going to be the candidates? Who are going to be the people who not only will be guys that Musk likes, but have enough profile in their states with constituents to have a shot of unseating, let's be honest here, a Trumpist candidate in a primary, when that Trumpist candidate will have the advantage of being the incumbent and will have all the money and organization that a Trump-controlled Republican Party is going to throw at it.
Well, the one thing Musk does, but Musk has money. I mean, he can afford this.
Yeah, Musk has money, but remember, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars just for congressional campaigns, and now in the billions, if you take it all the way across the United States. And the other thing here is, if this is just simply a case of Elon funding this, there's a risk here, which is everybody will look at it as the Elon Musk party. And the thing about Donald Trump's success is that Donald Trump, although he has effectively taken over the Republican Party, he's not the sole person funding it. He's been able to attract the donors. He's been able to attack those who, for various reasons, are running alongside him. And he can say, I'm doing it for the good of the country, the good of the state. If Musk simply is seen as being a one-person show in bankrolling this, I don't think it plays with Americans.
And do we know actually what his party, whatever we might know, the America Party, what it might stand for? Do we think it's just his attempt to derail the big, beautiful bill? Or is it actually, do we have any sense of some policies that voters might actually want to vote for who aren't currently particularly enamored with the Democrats or the Republicans?
I think it starts with the opposition to Trump's big, not so beautiful bill, but that does bring up not just opposing that bill, that brings up a couple of important policies to start with. So if you think about it, where Musk splits with Trump, and indeed some Republicans split with Trump before they caved and voted with him in the last few days, is because the U.S. government is going to add $3.3 trillion on top of $36 trillion debt that it already has. And Musk and those dissident Republicans say that is not sustainable. Now, the question here for Musk in terms of his policies is, okay, if you're saying that you're not going to run up the deficit, are you saying that you are not going to bring in those tax cuts that Trump brought in for the wealthy? Is that what Musk is saying? That he'd have to be clear on. Secondly, if he's saying he's going to balance the federal government budget, is he saying he's going to impose even deeper cuts beyond the savage cuts that Trump has imposed, say on healthcare, say on food assistance, say on environmental programs? And then the second point of difference that brings us to a policy we watch out for it with Elon is he opposes the removal of subsidies for renewable energy. So in fact, he wants to increase government spending in terms of subsidies for renewable energy. Now he says you need to do that because you need to outcompete China, which is pursuing wind, solar, electric power with batteries, et cetera. How does Musk square that support with the renewable energies with the overall aim of bringing government spending down?
Yeah, Scott, thank you so much. It's all the fascinating twists and turns in American politics. That was Professor Scott Lucas at the US International Politics at University College Dublin.
We're looking at today's forecast. We got about 6-foot waves midday, which is prime, is what we're looking for. Really, we're just set up for a perfect test environment throughout the day. See all of our systems come up, working together, and just have Ocean 2 in its optimal state. There she is, right there.
Everyone wants to find the things that make it so that people have schools and roads and hospitals, food. All of the things that humans need, these things are all driven by energy. The question is, can you find things that are much kinder to the planet and to people? We're just trying to find the things that can really work for humanity. You look out in the ocean and you see these millions of square miles, and you start to calculate up how much energy you could go and get. And it's like, wow, a lot more than humans need. Waves are concentrated sunlight. Waves come from wind, wind comes from sun, and by the time it's in the waves, it's such a power-dense resource. The seafloor is 5 miles below you. You're bobbing. How do you take those forces to spin a generator or something like that? I started poking around on YouTube.
Wave energy, or attempts to exploit wave energy, did begin a very long time ago.
Garth, it turned out, came to the same conclusion. It was waves on the open ocean. There were all kinds of technologies being pursued that were interesting, but they could never scale to provide enough power for the whole world.
Most people thought about it in terms of you put something close to shore and you get the energy back on a cable because we need the energy here. We want to get it right where it's being made in the middle of the ocean. That's where it's the best.
If you could figure out how to capture that, then that would solve the problem.
I went out to LA
and we spent 4 or 5 hours in a Chick-fil-A.
Then we had both agreed at the end to quit our jobs and start this new thing.
Garth leased a house a few miles away from my house. We had a big water tank out in the garage.
Brian had been developing a prototype, but we didn't understand that the core physics wasn't quite right yet. Even very simple things are very hard to make reliable. So if you complexify it, you're totally done.
You're trying to think of something that'll make energy from waves that doesn't have any moving parts. And that's a hard thing to do. Garth was in charge of throwing out very nice ideas because he found some reason they wouldn't work.
The next important step was that we hired Dan from SpaceX.
He was just this rational engineer.
What are you building? The water hammer.
tiny team, super nimble, really scrappy prototyping. It was more like cowboy fun rather than mission driven at the time. There's a picture of this early concept. It looks like some shit you buy. I mean, it was some shit you buy from Home Depot and just like cobble together and test it. Ultimately, that was the basis for everything that we've built up until this point.
I'm pretty sure this is one of the first renditions of our current kind of system. What we have here is the world's first spherical piston. This is a sick, sick device.
It was very exciting. We were just working all the time.
We needed to go and actually build a thing, take it out into the ocean, have the ocean throw at it whatever it would throw at it, and actually have it produce the power that we would predict.
Ocean 1 was the smallest ocean scale system we could build.
It was the first time we had sort of taken all the elements of what we had tested individually and said like, okay, let's put our money on the table and hopefully it matches our expectations. Ocean 1 proved that we could do that. It proved that it made the hydraulic power that we thought it would. Yeah, it was like resounding success.
Ocean 1, we proved that the shape does in fact work. Now the concepts that you start to prove are things like, can we actually manufacture something this big?
When we did Ocean 1, we were like 13 people. A lot of the systems were pretty simple, like they were prototype level stuff. So now we go and we hire 50 people more. Ocean 2 was an exercise in saying, okay, let's get all of these new people who are amazing, deeply understanding this system, deeply understanding their subcomponent and how it fits into that whole stack, and actually putting this thing out to sea.
All right, you want to pop it open a little bit more up there? Yeah.
Just felt like real down-to-earth engineering. Like when you're a kid and you think about engineering, that's what it felt like.
We're all about solving problems. If somebody wants to go and solve a different problem they've come up with, everybody says, cool, let us know if you need help. I mean, it's just fun.
This is how we communicate between Ocean 2 and the tugboat.
You know, some days Ocean 2 looks really big, other days Ocean 2 looks really small. And so it's neat working on it on the computer and then experiencing it in real life.
It's got to be so simple that it's just a steel can that just moves water around. By moving water around, you can get magic to happen. We've got this tube that's open at the bottom. So when this thing goes up and down, the water in that tube starts moving up and down.
There's this crash over and over. And when the water in the tube crashes with this constriction, it generates a high pressure jet of water. So now that high pressure jet of water goes into a pressurized reservoir, and then we can just let the water come out through a turbine. The turbine turns a generator. At that point, it's like a hydroelectric dam.
The ocean is one of those places that's still relatively untapped as far as humanity goes. Not much actually operates out there. We're talking about 70% of the planet being covered by water. You can get insane energy extraction where people just don't go.
What we're doing is figuring out how to use that power out in the middle of the ocean in a way that makes it so you don't need to make new power plants back on shore. We can do cloud computing, and it's just the same as if you had a data center that was doing it on land.
The other possibility is the generation of green fuels, particularly hydrogen. And so we would produce hydrogen locally and then have an off-taking system that would actually bring it back to shore.
All of our nodes will be autonomous, and eventually all of our ships will be autonomous. And you've got this whole ecosystem that you build out there.
Not only can we scale that almost instantaneously, but the cost of it will be dramatically less. We will have the cheapest electrical power on Earth.
If you truly want to compete at a global level for energy, you have to make it affordable. That's how you get clean energy, is you make the clean energy the best option.
You need to get out there and actually put this thing in the water and learn all of the things that you didn't expect.
This thing that's 215 feet long. The first reaction is just awe, And then the second reaction is some degree of terror, which is like, oh, my thing is going to control this. If this fails, if my thing fails, then this whole giant device fails.
It's baptism by fire or baptism by ocean, about how all of these systems come together. I promise you we will learn things.
Ocean 2 tug crew, can you hear me?
I'm nervous every time we put people on it, especially around the flips. We just got in the water a couple days ago. Right now it's sitting horizontal. We're gonna flip it vertical. Yeah, this is the beginning. The way the light's hitting it right now, your toe diamond looks like a bald eagle.
Oh, there you go. It does.
The top 3 goals for Ocean 2. Number 1 is that nobody gets hurt doing it. Number 2 is that we don't sink. And number 3 is that we get data.
When things are smaller, scale model, you can grab it and kind of move it. When you're dealing with metal that's at that scale, you have to do the engineering and then trust it.
We have permission to play. Okay, 6-inch Camelot cap pieces. And you are clear to open the valve. Once you open the valve, we would expect Ocean 2 to flip vertical in, I'm going to say 20 to 30 minutes. All right, Dan, stow the handle and get off.
The number of pieces of magic that we still need keeps declining.
It is now 14:31. It's been about a minute and a half. Port side cuff line is at 1.5 meter. Cuff is fully submerged. Alright, so we're at the 31-minute mark. This should happen very soon.
Oh, there it goes.
We have flippage.
Vertical.
That tug is going to take it out the strait, and it'll be out there for 3 weeks, trying to hit a variety of different wave states, generate power from those waves.
Hopefully we'll be able to open up the ocean as another energy generating platform for a lot of innovation to come.
You go to sleep, and you wake up, and the fact that it was still there, working, still generating power, that was a big deal.
Look out behind at the buoy, you're like, oh, it's just operating. How about that?
When it starts really getting in its happy zone, it just bounces real high.
And the device just kind of leaned over and it was just riding. It was just happy.
You don't think it should be making the power that it's making. It looks very benign. Then you have cameras that are seeing what's going on inside, and it's like, clearly there's tons of energy that is being driven through the system.
We've got these graphs starting to show kilowatts made, and somebody would be like, look at this line, like it's doing a thing, it's great.
We're generating some serious power here.
I'm looking forward to taking our learnings from this one and actually building something even better.
When people are like, oh, are you excited that it worked? I'm like, no, I expected it to work. We were working with brilliant people. Like, if it didn't work, I'd be more shocked.
Seeing Ocean 2 operating out at sea, it was so clear to me that when we build 100 or 1,000, that these are systems that we can deploy rapidly and actually be making a big difference.
Our goal is to make terawatts. The entire global electricity supply right now is about 3.5 terawatts. We think we can do a significant fraction of that.
Sometimes you get lucky and you can have an impact on people you've never met in a good way. That's what I think we're trying to do.
Every time I show a video of our device to anyone and I tell them what it does, they're optimistic. They're just like, I'm glad that people are doing this. It gives me hope that we can actually do this.
The scale at which we're doing it gives me hope that this is a feasible solution.
The ambition is to replace all fossil fuel generated power and fuel with renewable power and fuel. As far as I know, our technology is the first one that can do that for the whole world. So that's kind of cool.